This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Well, welcome back, Margeau. Introduce yourself again.
Again, yes, I am Margeau Graybill. Margeau Has to Die on the Discord, and I've been here since 2018, following the podcast.
Ooh,
Found y'all
damn.
because I was scrolling the Wheel of Time hashtag right after I found out there was going to be a show on Instagram, and I was like, "Ooh, a podcast, Wheel of Time podcast. I'm going to follow them, and I'm going to listen to that podcast." And you guys were not very far in, so it was very easy for me to catch up and then also do a re-listen at the same time that I was doing the podcast. And of course I joined Discord immediately and was like, yeah, I gotta be involved in the live recordings. This is so fun. So yeah, it's been a long time. It's been such a fun journey. I was just looking at my numerology and I was like, dang, I need another WoTSpoilers sticker for this one because that's my work cup. But yeah, I got into Wheel of Time because somebody gifted it to me for Christmas, my first year away from my parents at college. I read the first one and I was like, holy shit, and powered through the rest. And I was able to read them all straight all the way through. This was in 2009.
Wow. Damn.
Well, I almost was able to power all the way through. Something waylaid me for a little bit and I had to go back and start The Dragon Reborn again from the beginning, and then I went all the way through.
Sure. Well, one false start. We won't blame you for that.
That happens for sure.
All right. I have to ask everybody, because I didn't experience that, but what was the quote-unquote slog like to you reading it straight through like that? Was it a problem?
When you didn't have to wait for books, I didn't know about the slog. I didn't know about it being a thing until I joined the online community, and I was like, oh yeah, I could see if you had to wait for those books. But I just was able to go, I'm gonna go by Barnes & Noble on my way to the job at the furniture store and grab the new book because I'm almost done with this one. So I just powered through. I worked at a furniture store. I could just sit around on comfortable couches all day.
I'm testing this reading chair, okay?
Exactly. Yeah. If somebody came in, I got up, I sold them whatever, but the rest of the time I could sit on the most comfortable couches and power through reading Wheel of Time. So.
All right, so those places are fronts, right? There's no one who actually, most furniture and mattress stores have to be fronts for either a drug company or or the mob.
The owner of it has to have another very lucrative business, which was the case with the owner of mine. But he did end up closing the furniture store after I'd already moved away from Richmond. And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't making money, no, but it was a really fun place to work. I'm very comfy.
I have a friend who has definitely made a recreational habit of just checking out furniture stores and just kind of spending half an hour just running around, sitting on things and
just sitting on couches you could never afford.
Free entertainment.
They're so comfy.
Looking at weird lamp designs, being like, I don't want what you were smoking when you designed this lamp. This is a bad lamp.
And they're so expensive.
Oh yeah.
Right.
And
it's
just random pieces of twisted metal on the walls that are art, where they're $3,000, but it comes from a magazine. You can mass order them. It's a very strange environment.
Indeed.
I remember going into a mattress store when I first moved to Portland, and I needed a mattress, right? But I sure as hell wasn't going to buy one from there because, good God, the prices are absurd. And I remember just walking around.
They're marked up.
Oh, so much. It's insane. And just sort of sitting on a couple of couches and just having 4 people stare at me at all times because there were so many employees and I was the only customer in the store.
They wanted that commission.
Yeah. But I wasn't gonna buy anything, so it was a weird, almost surreal experience because I think it went kind of late at night too. I was like, why are y'all even open? I don't understand.
We were open till 8. And
yeah,
they came to their
senses. Something like that. It was 7:30.
Yeah, they came to their senses later and started closing at 7. But still, at wintertime, they're way after dark and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I want to do after dinner in January is go spend $5,000 on a new piece of furniture that I'll have to live with for years upon years. That's totally what I do.
I use furniture that was my grandparents. Mostly all the good furniture I have was my grandparents. And this random table that my parents' friends gifted to me when I moved into my house that I have now.
We're heavily into rebuying from people, Facebook Marketplace, thrift storing.
Yeah,
I
you get some
don't
good
think I've
stuff.
ever bought anything new. Because there's the rich people who can afford the $5,000 new thing. They need to get rid of the old thing, and if you'll come get it, they'll basically give it away for free. They don't even need. They might put it up for $100 or $200 or $300 because they want to.
They need it out of their house.
They need it out of the house, and they want someone who's willing to pay a little bit of money. But yeah.
Yeah, my parents downsized a couple years ago, and they had a pretty big 3-bedroom house with tons of stuff. My brother like helped them sell so much stuff on Facebook Marketplace. And
And I'm still a big Craigslist user. I know, mostly so I can stay off Facebook. But occasionally I do turn to Travis, my old roommate, and
he's on
say,
Facebook a lot.
Yeah, he's on Facebook a lot, right?
Yeah,
and so
I
I'm
see
like,
him
hey, I need something
if I get on there.
on Facebook Marketplace, and I'm like, can you help me out? And so he's got a nose for the deals. He's helped me buy a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's honestly people go there first now instead of Craigslist. I would have gone to Craigslist before, but I've tried to do that before and it doesn't work nearly as quickly.
Yeah, just I throw a good fuck Mark Zuckerberg out there.
Yes.
Like, I don't want to be on Facebook. I'm off Instagram. I'm off Facebook.
It's so funny because like now my mom's on Facebook and stuff, and like she loves posting pictures and it's adorable, but yeah, I don't have it on my phone or anything. But I also like to have Instagram because I can save like all the freaking videos I took this weekend and not have my phone. I can just have them uploaded somewhere. So I took a lot of videos.
Well, it's like, I know my coworkers have Facebook, which is just a great reason not to get on there.
Oh, yes. My boss, the owner of the company I work for, he's not only on Facebook, but he's probably followed me since I was like a teenager on Facebook. And he posts a lot. And he asks me how to do stuff on Facebook. And it's just like, yeah, it makes me just never want to get on it at all. All the people I work with are on there. I work in Southwest Virginia in a car dealership. Can you imagine the stuff I see on my Facebook? Yeah, it's rough.
I mean, in some ways, I'm kind of hypocritical because obviously I put so much of myself out there in this podcast.
No, it's a different thing, though. It's so different.
It's different,
like,
and the volume of audio people would have to wade through in order to find out things about me. I'd be like, you're really gonna have to listen to some Wheel of Time shit. I'm like, you're gonna have to, like, it's almost worth it to me to get someone into Wheel of Time.
You're gonna end up being a fan.
Exactly.
You're gonna end up being a Vanindred truther. Yeah, it would take a lot.
All right, speaking of Vanindred Truther. That is not an easy common word to say.
I thought I was able to say it. Like,
yeah.
I was like,
roll off the tongue like you were
the roll of tongue like it was nothing. So you made it look so easy. I walked into it like face first, thinking it was just going to be no problem whatsoever.
I walked into it thinking it was going to be hard, so that maybe.
Expectations. That's what they're all about. So Vanindred, I think there's some really good evidence in this chapter, and it's just a fun chapter overall, and I'm excited to have Margeau here with us. So do we want to dig into it?
One last question.
Oh, okay.
One last question, Margeau. Mm-hmm. Remind us when you were on last.
Oh.
Because you are a returning guest, but I have no memory for time.
It was,
at all.
I don't know when exactly, but it was springish of 2022. And I was on for the chapter, The Road to Camelin. I think that was the name of the chapter, where Elaine and her whole crew are actually riding to Camelin, and the murder had just happened, and they're trying to figure out who it was. Like, yeah, so basically when this current plot line started. And now,
right.
Wow, nice timing then. Very nice timing.
We like to bookend it. We did that
totally
on purpose.
did that on purpose.
Totally
it was
on
not
purpose.
because of my job schedule or any other weird things.
Yeah, no, definitely super on purpose. Well, excellent. I'm glad to have you back. And yeah, I guess digging into this chapter with falling apart Elaida. Falling apart. Elaida is so like spiraling around the drain towards the Aridhol event horizon.
She has become drunk.
Yes.
To the point where she gets drunk in front of other sisters. Good.
But I like that you mentioned Aridhol, right? Because you have to talk about Fane's influence on her in this section.
Yeah. No, her mind is crumpling, and I think that the initial impact of Fane is really showing in that crumple. But yeah, we should actually get into it chronologically. So, Margaret, do you want to read us in, or you want me to do it?
Yes, I can do it. I read it to my dogs last night out loud to get a little practice.
Excellent.
But it still probably won't be very good. But let's.
It'll be fantastic.
It's a long one, like the whole first paragraph.
Even just that is long.
We'll fix it in post. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay. Gold embossed leather folder under her arm, Tarna kept to the central core of the tower as she climbed towards Elaida's apartments. Although it meant using a seemingly endless series of staircases, twice those stairs were not located where she remembered them, but so long as she continued upward, she would reach her destination, rather than the gently spiraling corridors. On the stairs, she met no one but the occasional liveried servants who bowed or curtsied before hurrying on about their tasks. In either of the spiraling hallways, she would have had to pass the entrances to the Aja quarters and perhaps encounter other sisters. Her keeper's stole allowed her to enter any Aja's headquarters, yet she avoided all except the Red, save when duty called. Among sisters of the other Ajas, she was all too aware that her narrow stole was red, all too aware of hot eyes watching her from cold faces. They did not unnerve her. Little did. She took the shifting interior of the tower in stride, but still, she thought matters had not gone so far that anyone would actually attack the keeper, yet she took no chances. Retrieving the situation was going to be a long, hard struggle, whatever Elaida thought, and an assault on the keeper might make it irretrievable.
Yeah, I think that ship may have sailed at this point.
Nice
sentiment.
Yeah, I'm glad you are so bold that you think you can actually turn this ship around.
Right,
I mean,
right.
She's confident in herself. I'll give Tarna that.
Yeah. Tarna.
Yeah, I looked her up and it was fun realizing that she was a wilder that came to the tower. Yeah. Tarna was. And Galena beat her block out of her.
Right.
That's who this woman is, who's now trying to keep the Elaida tower.
Yeah, there's a point later where she compares Elaine's punishment to her getting the block beaten out of her and how it's actually worse than that. Egwene, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's an interesting line of like, oh no, I had my block beaten out of me, because I feel like it's been euphemistically referred to
by the Galena Caspin, like the worst.
Right. Yeah, like it's been euphemized and like hinted at that like some sisters have done that to some other sisters, and now we're having a woman saying, a woman you all the readers know is Black Aja as fuck beat the block out of me, who is empirically evidently not a Black Aja person. And you're just like, whoa, we've been hating on the Reds this whole time, but it's like, how many of them were actually doing Black Aja stuff? Like, this is a moment of realizing, like, the Red are in their own way a microcosm of the Tower being riddled with Black Aja. Like, the Red are equally riddled with Black Aja.
The Red is really, yeah, I would say that's got to be the Aja that has the most, right? I'm pretty sure I've seen that somewhere.
Exactly. Yeah, that's in Varen's book. The Red has, yeah.
Yeah, proportionally, if you do the math, a third of the Red are black, whereas only a quarter of the rest of them are black.
Right, which that can't be just explained by the fact that the Red Aja is the biggest. It's also like, no, they attracted the nasty people, unfortunately.
Well, and they're people that want to hunt down other human beings and like still or kill them. Like that's their thing too. So of course it attracts those people.
Also, they're looking for men who can channel, which of course include the Dragon Reborn. So the Dragon Reborn, the Dark One's going to have a focus on finding men who can channel, right?
Sure.
That was a big part of what. I mean, let's look at who founded the Black Aja, right? Is Shamael.
Singularly focused on the dragon.
Singularly focused on finding Rand, right? Like, so, obviously there's going to be a big Black Aja presence in the group of people who are trying to find Rand.
Yeah, you've got a whole Aja dedicated to finding all of them just in case.
Right.
Yeah. Your mission statement makes you bad.
Yeah, but like a semi like legitimate reason.
Right.
Oh, sure.
Right. And lots of good people go into it for.
They could really mess some stuff up
Yeah.
if they were allowed to channel, but like, was there really no other way to deal with male channelers? I don't know.
and like being militant and mean was also not necessary in order to do the merciful thing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. They
Right,
yes,
right.
exactly. That was this was not the right way to do it. But it was a Shamael, so
But but Tarna, as I recall, she gets turned during the confrontations at the Black Tower.
Does she get turned?
I
believe that
but I don't recall.
Pavara like looks in Tarna's eyes and is like, "Oh no, that's not Tarna anymore. I am disturbed," and then goes to Androl and is like,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Shit,
Like I believe that seeing Tarna's dead eyes is part of it.
Oh yeah, she shares a room with Pavara at the Black Tower. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And she changes her mind.
And she comes back and she's like, "We should totally stay."
Right after she was really, really raring to go, and it's she's like the final red flag. Final red flag. In Pavara realizing that everything's going to shit at the Black Tower.
Right.
So again, proof that she's technically okay as Reds go. She's not a Black Aja. She's not a bad person. She's just
And she even likes men.
Yeah.
She likes men, which is like controversial to not be into women.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Reds are like, what's wrong with you?
The poor group of people that were like, we know for sure they're not Black Aja because they got turned into Black Aja, so they couldn't have started out that way. And it's kind of like, ooh, good for you. It's like,
Yeah, it's like, well, if she floats, she's a witch and we burn her, and if she drowns, then she wasn't a witch and we don't burn her.
Right, exactly. Right.
Like, great, awesome, so cool. Love that for me.
Okay, so she's thinking about a mental list of people who she can share the idea of bonding men over, right?
Right, the thing that will lead to her ultimate demise. Yes, that.
Right. So she thinks she can only still think of a single name, and that one was impossible for the task. Who? I did a little research and I couldn't figure out, there's a list of people who end up in that group, right? But I don't know. Is she thinking about Pavara?
I think she's thinking about herself.
Oh.
Because as keeper, she's like, I can't, though. I'm the keeper. She ultimately decides to because so few people can. But that was the best I got. I have no evidence for that than my own logic.
Yeah, except for the fact that she was already talking about how she's like okay with the idea and likes men anyway. So yes, I can see that. I thought it was Pavara just because I know what happens and that.
No, actually looking it over, Elaida, she thinks herself, who in the red could actually be trusted with the task? And she is in the red, right? So,
I think that makes sense.
And she can't trust anybody else. That makes sense that it ends up being just herself.
Well, at this point, I mean, she does ultimately get Pavara and whoever else, I forget who else goes on that mission. But she figures out, I guess it's because she's starting with the red. At this point, she's still not expanding her search to other... No, she brings all reds.
No, but she's talking about who in the red could be trusted with this task.
Yeah, no, I think they do... Sutama ultimately has to order some other sisters to join the mission. As I recall, there's a later POV where Tarna thinks that ultimately Sutama simply told some sisters, hey, you're going to go bond warders. I don't care what you think, because this list never expands beyond the one impossible name. And I guess maybe Pavara.
I like how she's taking the changing of the tower in stride. Like, I'm sorry, I don't think I could do that.
Reasons to like her, right? It's like, well, you're
she's
chill in the
likable.
face of transubstantiating tower. Like,
she's just like, I'm just gonna take the long way. That's, I know it's gonna take me there in the end. As long as I keep going up, I'm gonna get there, and I'm just gonna not deal with this right now because I can't change it.
By the way, final group of 6 who will be are Pavara, Tarna, Jezreel, Deslana, Mullane, and Javindra.
Jezreel we saw in just a previous chapter. She's the one who stops Katarine from beating Egwene as she's going down the hallway.
Right, yeah. I listened to that one too. I like to do before and after to get all the chapters around it.
Desla is one of the ones who captures Leanne.
Okay. Yeah, the Reds really lose a lot of not Black Aja members on this mission.
Yeah, they do. That sucks.
Like a lot of the actual Reds go down in this mission.
The ones
That's
that
a real bummer.
truly think there's a reason behind it and are taking interesting but reasonable than the rest of the Reds steps.
Yeah.
Oh, and I said Mullane, I meant Malaire.
Ah.
Malaire.
Thanks, Jordan.
Yeah, and then we have Maidani in this chapter too.
Yeah, that's the next paragraph is Maidani doing like seduction at 10 a.m. routine.
Yeah, she was garbed for a ball or seduction.
Elaida's already sipping wine. We've got like jewelry and exposed bosoms, and it's a whole situation. And like Tarna repeatedly mentions it is early in the day. It is like she is bringing the morning reports. Like, this is coffee hour. Like, what are you doing drinking wine and looking at this woman's cleavage? Like, this is way too early.
I feel like Elaida's gone, like, drunk with power, king on their throne, harem around them at all times, drinking constantly. That level of just, like, indulgence.
Henry
because
VIII?
they're so disconnected from reality. She's so disconnected from reality that there's no... they're like, everything's going great now that I have the power back from Alviarin. I'm in charge, so nothing can go wrong because I'm doing the orders, right? And then that plus gross misinterpretation of the information being fed to her just keeps her, totally disconnected from what's really going on in the world.
Yeah, she feels like her brain's been a little bit broken. And like, she can only respond like in a traumatized kind of way, like to that. And then, of course, you gotta factor in the Padden Fane factor.
Right, the Fane factor.
Yes, you do.
The way she's behaving here is so bad, even compared to the Elaida we've seen in previous books. She's so short-tempered and irrational and angry and paranoid. And it's like, those are fault lines that Fane put in her mind, that she's collapsing along at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the whole Aja, right, like, is being affected. The whole tower is being affected by the Fane influence, right? This turning on each other is just a very typical Aridhol reaction. You just keep splitting your groups into smaller and smaller groups, chopping them up and having them be suspicious of each other, right? We even have here Elaida being like, no, I want you to spy on your own Aja, right? She's turned all the Ajas against each other. Now she's trying to turn people within the Ajas against each other. And I think that's all a Fane influence.
Yeah, that's totally what happened to Aridhol. It's why it shut our Logoth.
Mm-hmm.
Not surprised that the leader who was strongly influenced by him would end up creating the same mess. And Tar Valon is such a mess too, and she's just ignoring that, and everybody's just like, we know what's going on here. And of course they talk about trying to get people fed now that they have the whole Queen DR chain across the river, or half of it is Queen DR. But I think Elaida even says something about how she wants to get people back to like building her palace too, so she's just like not
No sense of priority that, like, people are starving, but build my palace, right? And you've got two Quendiar chains, right? You've got one that Egwene did that blocks the whole South Harbor, I believe, right? Yeah. And then half of the North Harbor was Leanne before she got captured and knocked out because she was slower. So they've got half a harbor. And
so that would definitely slow down bringing in food and everything a lot, but that should probably be your priority, not maybe letting Maidani sleep with you and get some secrets from her. That's like
and basically torturing her, right? Like mentally torturing her every day, just
fucking with her for the hell of it. That's like her priority right now.
Okay, Savannah, right? Like, what are you doing? Yeah,
right. And it feels so inconsistent from like early Elaida, where it's like, yeah, she made flowers bloom instead of making farms bloom, but also she was facing Elaine with that real question of like, I can't do this for the whole kingdom. You can pick one farm, or I can just do the garden for the royal family. Like, that was cold, but a reasonable calculation. This is cold and completely unreasonable. Like, Elaida, what happened? Where are you? Come back.
I mean,
but no, she is gone. She's gone. Elaida's gone.
She's gone. Yeah.
She's beyond.
Yeah, Elaida is as far beyond redemption as the situation in the tower under her leadership is. Like, just no. You need to go take a very long sabbatical.
Which we saw last chapter when Egwene was meeting with people and making really good points, and they were just like, couldn't say anything. Or like
right?
One didn't even like assign her to go see Sylviana, and they're just like, okay, yeah, you're fucking right, and I'm just gonna pretend like I didn't hear it.
Also notice costume design here. Elaida is wearing a dress that is covered in so much intricate red scroll work that the embroidery all but hides the gray underneath. It's like she's trying to be conciliatory, but she's absolutely not trying in an effective way. She's got the gray, tiny bit of gray, but
Tarna is picking her battles, and wardrobe is not one of them. She's like,
yeah.
What did she say? She suggested less flaunting of her former Aja. She had phrased it more diplomatically, but that was what she meant, and might help bring the Ajas together. Yet Elaida's eruption of fury had been sufficient to keep her quiet on the topic, since Tarna's a pick her battles type.
Yeah, there's a line later where she says she had learned to avoid subjects that only resulted in shouting. Advice and suggestions unoffered were no more useless than advice and suggestions untaken. I was like, yes. That is truly an applied version of pick your battles. That is the applied way of saying pick your battles.
I like that. I think I highlighted that in duty.
Because Tarna's smart.
And in the way that I cannot help but compare Elaida to Trump. The way he's like ignoring all his lawyers when they tell him to do stuff. Like exactly how I think about him, and like all of them just like, we have to pick our battles with him. Like Tarna is just like, we're gonna tell him the stuff where he's just gonna shout and do it anyway. There's no point because he's stubborn and pig-headed, and it's just
there's just so many.
Yeah.
It's like
yeah.
I guess it's
Weekly Wheel News has made so much hay out of that because it's so real.
Okay.
It's so
I need
real.
to go back and look at the recent ones. I haven't looked at those in a while. Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. No, Weekly Wheel News continues to be a
it.
delight of skewering everything. But yeah, the Elaida Trump comparison is just too apt. It's just too apt.
And I think that Vuji makes a good point here that it's just narcissism. Right? That's what it is, right? Like, Jordan is writing a narcissistic personality, and when you see that in somebody, it's very easy to, like, those are the sort of things that align between the different characters. Mm-hmm. Is this sort of selfish tendency to ignore evidence that does go against your narrative.
Yeah, she's become a caricature of that at this point. She used to just be an interesting villain, and now she's completely gone full, what the hell is happening? I think it's interesting that she has been demanding that the talks for negotiations end, and they keep happening. I think that that's a very interesting side detail that I don't even know if Egwene realizes that the negotiations are continuing or that they're continuing against Elaida's will. I don't know how much she's aware of the full depth of that dynamic.
Right, because she also doesn't want the talks to go anywhere.
Hi, Timber.
Pause for Timber.
We've got Timber Cam and Timber Howl.
I think I
Timber
can get Bark in frame too, so that they can both be podcast doggies today.
I'm feeling so left out not having a dog.
Yeah, you should get a dog.
Can you see him?
Yes.
Oh,
just
yes.
His feet a little bit.
I can see some feet.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of hard because I have my computer. Hey, Bark.
Yeah.
He's out.
Yeah.
He's getting older.
Oh, there he goes.
And Timber's up. Wow.
And Timber's walking off.
Bye, Timber. Good to see you. I'm glad you were on today.
he came in for a little roll, and now he's gone.
Valuable
Just
contributions.
interrupt.
Get me, Bart. They just felt each other through the.
That's through the cam.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the puppies have to stay outside because they are not conducive to podcasting.
No, but sometimes they're fun to have.
Oh, yeah.
Timber's just so funny. His vocals are so funny.
Yeah. So is Varen. I've never had a German Shepherd before, and she makes the craziest noises. She sounds like a chimpanzee sometimes. She's like, It's crazy. I didn't know German Shepherds made like such weird noises.
Timber's a mix of like pit. I did the DNA, but he's got pit bull, husky, a little bit of German Shepherd, and
so if you have husky and
lot,
German Shepherd, no wonder
That's
he's
a
exactly.
boy.
That's why those noises are coming. I mean, they're both small percentages, right? So
yeah, Bark definitely.
Genetics being what they are.
Bark, despite being named Bark, is a very quiet dog. So
the pun was too good. Just live up to your name or whatever. Nah, non-barky bark is honestly even better. That's hilarious.
yeah.
I thought it was interesting that word is coming that the Shan-Chan are reasserting their grip on Terrebonne, right? So, because that was the place where Rand drove them back.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So this basically, that one sentence undoes Path of Daggers. Like,
yeah,
it takes
reassuring their
all
grip on the
consequences.
country.
Yeah, yep. It's like, okay, nope, they have Terrebonne. They were stalled for a while, for sure.
Oh, man, I didn't even realize the implications of that. All of that was for nothing. Oh, my gosh. And that was some crazy Darth Rand.
Exactly. Him, like, bombing the whole forest and all that kind of stuff.
Peak Darth Rand. And killing his own people. Holy shit, I didn't even realize. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was for nothing. Just... they got it back. Oh, shit.
It's like Varen says. It's almost like the wars don't really change anything in the end.
No.
When you read the histories, it's like, and then they retook, after all that heroism, they retook it. Like, I'm not saying it. I'm just saying Varen said it, and I'm agreeing with Varen.
Well,
all right, so chat's calling me out. Real time correction. Rand beat them back in Ebu Dar, not Terrebonne.
No.
Okay. Yeah, Terrebonne's where Icherald's been, right?
Okay. I'm like, why did they lose their grip? That I guess is what's the missing link. Like,
I was wondering what the rebellion was that they were talking about in Terrebonne.
Yeah, that had to be Icherald.
Oh,
right? Because where's he right now?
Yeah, because he went into Terrebonne to kick them in the face, and then is running back to Eridhol to the north, shedding Terrebonners along the way. That was kind of his whole plan.
Okay.
So the rebellion is that. So it makes sense that he started a rebellion. It's not necessarily sticking as he goes through. So we're not undoing Path of Daggers.
No, we're not.
Almost immediately neutralizing Iturralda's campaign as he moves through. Almost immediately.
Right. It's just like a lot of death and carnage and pissing off the Shan-Chan, I guess, and showing that it can be done.
Well, so you two were both wrong, but my point about agreeing with Varen still stands. Wars are done.
That was if you say Varen knows, you're probably going to be right.
Yeah, come on. It's like one of our catchphrases.
And it is true.
And she's Brown Aja, and I'm Brown Aja, so wahaha.
And I shouldn't have named my dog after her because she is very sneaky. Presenting that to the whole world, but I know she's actually
you did that to yourself.
Yes, everybody thinks she's just a perfect princess, but no, she is.
That's so Varen.
Devious. In the best way.
Consider that so Raven. Oh my god. It's like, what are the 3 TV references from the 2000s I know? Like, Jesus.
That one you get. Out of all the TV references I make, all over the place, that's the one. You're like, I know that's so Raven.
I saw one episode and it imprinted on me extremely strongly.
Apparently. It was a fun one. It was in San Francisco.
Maybe 2. I don't know.
I liked the intro to it because it was fun San Francisco views.
I don't remember much about it, but the catchphrase and the weird absurdity of the plot points of the 2 episodes I somehow randomly watched. Like it was a weird time. Okay, the transition from private school to public school was a weird cultural adjustment. So.
Try doing homeschool to public school.
This was not that far off. That was the level of insular private school I was in. It was not far off from homeschool. It was more rigorous than my parents probably could have managed, but like tiny community, tiny groups, tiny little family, insular, culty vibe. And very unconventional.
Homeschool play group. Yeah.
But I also passed my GED without help from.
We were schooled in the same way, but yeah, I got really good grades once they actually did throw me in public school. So it didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I bounced out of high school after 2 years, and spoilers, nothing on the GED was anything that I learned in high school. Everything that I did on the GED was stuff that I had gotten by 8th grade in my little culty school.
Oh, I'm sure. I graduated high school with like a 3.9, even though I didn't start going to public school till 9th grade, because it's just like, I already know like all this stuff up through like most of it. Because I'm interested in learning things.
Yeah.
Okay.
How dare you?
Yeah.
Pretty much anyone who read The Wheel of Time, even if we didn't do well in the school system, which is off for various reasons.
So easy.
Because we were off reading The Wheel of Time. We got bored with school.
So true. It was a fellow Waldorf kid that gave me Wheel of Time for the first time. I got my hookup in little hippie school.
There's only 3 kinds of people I've met who have fallen in love with Wheel of Time, and they all have a lot of extra time on their hands, which is prisoners, people in the military, and kids in high school.
Thank God for that furniture store then, because I was in college.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have been able to read it all in a year if I hadn't had that job. So
God, what an amazing year.
Yeah, it was. It really was. It was so crazy. I remember reading the chapter, The Last Battle, and like I didn't know how long it was, because like not like I checked ahead of time to see. And I was like, oh yeah, to my boyfriend, I was like, yeah, we can go out and do something as soon as I finish this chapter. And I said that at like 11
I've seen that
a.m.
meme so many times.
Yeah, and it really happened to me because I did not know. All day long, he's like, "Are you done yet?" I'm like, "Actually, no." And then I looked, I'm like, "Yeah, it's actually novel length. So sorry, I think I need to just read it."
Whoops.
I've been reading a lot of books to get to this chapter, and I think I just need to finish it now.
The thing I always tell people when they're like, "How long is it?" I'm like, "It's longer than the first Harry Potter book."
Yeah.
Ah!
Yeah. That's
quite a bit.
the fun little nugget to put out there. It's like, that Harry Potter series? Yeah, the first book is comparable to the conclusion chapter, to the climax chapter of the 15-book epic.
Yeah.
I love that.
Which is when you have to say, like, it is its own little mini book, I think, inside.
Really?
Because it has a bunch of breaks. It has,
You could read the whole thing.
It's like the whole rest of the end of this book.
You could read it in isolation and it would make sense. There would be a beginning, middle, end. You would fall in love with characters. You would go through all of the emotional arcs that a story needs to have. You'd hit all the beats. You could just read that chapter as not short story, but yeah, as a standalone novel.
Yeah, you could. I never thought about that.
Whoa. It'd be a lot, but...
And the crazy thing is, it only takes you about halfway through the battle itself, right? I think it only takes you up to about the horn blow.
Yeah.
It's not even the whole thing by any means, right? That's about when things turn around.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is about what it takes you up to.
Yeah, so you probably need to read the next chapter too to get the conclusion.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's book 2
totally.
of this weird little experiment, I guess.
Yeah. I want to make somebody do that who's never read Wheel of Time and get their opinion.
Should find someone in the first time reader, book reviewer, creative space and be like, do you want to do an experiment? Are you looking for something interesting to do? Are you bored with your current pattern? We've got a random duology we just sort of yoinked out of another book for you.
I wonder what where I could suggest that.
And then I'd love to see like what their takes on who the characters were and what the relationships were to each other and why they were doing the things they were doing based on just that information in the last chapter.
Yeah, right?
That would
Or
be
in the last
so
battle.
cool.
Yeah.
That would be interesting. That'd be very interesting. So if anyone out there can think of any social networks they can rattle to find us this person, you do that. You let us know. Please and thank you.
Maybe I can ask somebody from my book club.
Hell yeah.
Because none of them have read the whole thing. Well, I've made Wilson listen to the whole thing, my boyfriend. And
Well, yeah.
Obviously, he had to. And yeah, he listens
law.
to but nobody in my book club has read it because they're not all super fantasy like oriented. Like we all have really different tastes in books, but we've read some good ones. Somehow we've kept a book club going since 2022. I don't know.
Wow.
It's like the only social thing I do basically other than dog training. But anyway, I bet I could get one of them to read just The Last Battle, like from start to finish and get their opinion on it. I'll ask him because that would be fun, very fun experiment to run.
Yeah,
That would be a fun
Report back.
episode to record. Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah,
report
and they
back
won't.
now.
Yeah, they don't want to read the whole thing. So okay,
That's
just
fair.
do this.
That's fair. That's fair. Read a novella. It's fine.
Yeah.
Next thing I've got is a time drop. Right, Elaida had asked after the young woman. This was the first time Elaida had asked after the young woman since her capture 9 days ago.
Yes.
So we have a timestamp of 9 days since Egwene's capture.
It has been almost a Randland week. Most of a Randland week. Right, because their weeks are 10 days for some stupid reason.
And we can kind of match that up with the amount of work she was doing in the kitchens and all the things she was accomplishing. 9 days was a while into that process, right?
Yes, this is quite that montage felt fast when we did it because it was kind of like, is it 1 day? Is it 3 days? What's happening? Here we're getting a solid number, 9 days. That's a while. That is a while to fall into a routine, to establish your baseline relationships and standards and expectations. And it's been a short definition of a while at this point.
Right. And we can see from the report that basically where we left her is where she is. She's being stubborn. She's getting beat on a regular basis by Silviana. And it's just a matter of time, ... until she, falls in line or whatever. But yet 9 days is a long time to be beaten black and healed twice a day. Yeah.
Yeah, Elaida's like, I don't want her broken. I just want her tamed to the tower's harness. What is the difference?
I know, right?
Especially when you are the tower.
I know. Yeah. It's that gaslighty doublespeak nonsense of authoritarians.
You're beating her that much? Why? That's the same thing.
Yes. Deeply frustrating.
I think she's worried about leaving her with no willpower whatsoever. She wants someone who will eventually be a good Aes Sedai, at least in her mind, right? This is the whole thing. This is why she's not killing her. This is why she thinks she's just a novice that needs to be persuaded to come back to the tower, and then this will be another good Aes Sedai in support of her.
Because she's delusional.
And she just doesn't get it. She just doesn't. Yeah, she's totally delusional. But yeah, this idea that all she needs to do is put Egwene into line like the other novices, because she's just a novice that ran away, right? That's all that Egwene has become in her head.
This is like ABA or conversion therapy. You're just going to beat a different mode of being into you. We're just going to abuse you until you completely change who you are at a fundamental level. And it's down to a contest of wills if your identity is going to override their, violence enforced narrative. All this is.
The difference is the Shan-Chan are way more effective at it.
Yeah, the only difference is that the Shan-Chan, it's not the will. You can't break the collar with the will.
No, I wasn't talking about Shan-Chan. I was talking about in the real world.
I was comparing the two.
Yeah.
Her two captivities, one with the Shan-Chan. Then now it's a battle of wills now, but it's still similar. It's still similar because they're still torturing her technically.
It's the same motivation, but the Adom provides an unreasonable power up to the thing that changes it.
But they're doing their best with the tea and everything.
Yeah, it's the same motivation.
Yeah.
They would use an Adom if they had one without hesitation. It's absolutely the same mindset. Oh, yeah. Elaida would have no problem putting a recalcitrant Egwene on an Adom.
You're so right. That's horrible. But
but she doesn't believe in those things yet. She won't believe in it until she's on the receiving end of one. So that'll be a little late.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Egwene's like, I faced an Adom and I overcame it. You are nothing.
Well,
right? But there's still the same. It's this idea of you are getting this damage-free pain, right? We're going to heal you up at the end of it, right? Whether it's administered by Adom or through beatings and then healings, right?
Sure,
we're doing the same thing. We are inflicting pain for pain's sake until you act the way we want you to act.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Adom was much more effective because it could police your thoughts.
Yeah.
In a way that Elaida cannot.
Right. Egwene is facing only normal human abuse with magical healing as an augmentation. The Adom just gets in your head in a way that's very sci-fi, futuristic, weird shit.
Yeah, and they definitely don't even know healing. Most of the Suldam don't.
Right, yeah, they don't even know how, but they don't, because they don't have to cause literal pain. Sometimes they'll like remove a hand or a tongue or whatever.
Oh, I got
like,
more dogs.
You know.
They'll probably lie down though.
I imagine that Shanshan has very good traditional, like normal healing with like actual medicine.
They must. Well, later, Tuan gets that bunch of vials and creams that she had because she notices that Matt doesn't want Aes Sedai healing either.
Right, and she also talks about being excited that Aes Sedai are being captured to have healing because she's going to teach it to her Suldam. She's very jazzed about that.
But none of my servants or even the blood would probably want it. I didn't think you would be the same, Toy. Have a different accent
but also, I mean, I figure, they don't have probably anything like a Hippocratic Oath in Shanshan, so they probably have very effective surgical methods because they got to practice on however many prisoners they wanted.
Yeah, oh, you're right.
Isn't that just the weirdest contradiction in medicine? Is like some of the most unethical practices have taught us the most. I mean, I know some of that's been debunked where like a lot of the information wasn't very good to begin with because whatever.
I mean, some things are definitely helped along that way.
Yeah, but a lot of early medicine is fucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had to kill a lot of people to figure out like how the circulatory system works, right? Like,
well, and like disrespect a lot of corpses also.
Yeah.
Cadavers.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of people who were doing good things with bad steps along the way to create the foundations of medicine. Like that's a very real thing. I've read Mary Roach books.
And we can look back and be like, what were you thinking? Why are you trying these absurd things? And they're like, we didn't know. We had to try everything and then see what worked and what didn't. And then once you saw what worked, you could come up with a theory. Yeah. And what kept working, right?
It's rough, man.
The problem is when they weren't thinking scientifically and they're like, well, if we just balance the humors by letting blood, surely that will help.
Man.
And it's just like, wait, letting blood? That's so bad for like almost everything.
Literally. Yeah. Like all but like 2 things ever. It's bad for.
Right.
Anybody who was a doctor before like 19, like, I don't know, 40s, 50s was just very sketch. And just could just make up whatever.
Truly.
That's why you had the snake oil salesman, right?
I also listened to way too much Behind the Bastards.
I was like, I recognize where that argument's coming from. Talking about those reverend doctors running around in their weird cars.
These are the only 2 podcasts I listen to now.
Oh wow, that's an honor.
It's weird.
It's really
honor. Weird.
That's a weird.
So I was
mix.
just like listening to so many. Yeah, I know it is. And I was just like, well, and sometimes a funny Harry Potter fan fiction podcast, but not like every week like these 2. And I'm just like, I need to stop listening to news because I was listening to so many news podcasts and like current events podcasts. I was like, I know it's like so privileged to be able to do this, but I need to step back and not have this in my ears every day, like for my own mental health.
Right. Yeah.
But I definitely still need to listen to Behind the Bastards, and obviously Wheel of Time is an escapism, so I can keep that, and I can keep the Harry Potter fan fiction podcasts. But yeah, I had
to do the same thing when I started my job. I was just too. Also, I'm surrounded by people who are too conservative.
Well, me too.
And so if I engage with it, it at all, I'll
so angry.
Be in way too many conversations. So I've gotten much, much more into audiobooks than I ever have been before and away from podcasts, which is ironic considering what I do. But podcasts have just, they were making me too up here when I needed to be down here.
Yeah. I was way too anxious. I had like a couple podcasts that I really liked and I love the host and I love the information they provide, but I'm just like, it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I've started a lot of the science stuff, I've started to like really look at how much like how important replicating studies is and how little we do of it and how much science news is based on non-replicated studies, and it makes me just really skeptical of the news
if it's just
about
one.
It
could mean anything.
It could mean anything. And so I've really come to this point of like I there's very little sources I trust not to overhype the science news and get me legitimate information.
Unless it's like a dinosaur fossil, because dinosaur news.
Well, yeah.
I definitely still like that news. Because,
well, and I mean, the nature of archaeology is like, yeah, you get one sample.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it
Right,
is.
right. Yeah.
Same with like space news. I'm like, pretty pictures count.
Oh yeah, pretty pictures. You definitely
pretty pictures
look
from
at
space.
those.
We're good.
Sure.
Good.
Sure.
And still lots of whale pictures. But yeah.
Yeah. Anything about James Webb, I will follow.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. So
right
glorious.
away. All of the things that they're like, well,
it's simple joy.
Everything we thought before is not true, because we now have this one way better picture, and we've got a whole bunch of new things we need to think about might be the possibility for this happening, because galaxies were around way before we thought they were.
It's just the coolest.
In a form that we did not believe they could have been in at that time. So we need to rethink everything.
Simplest joy. It's just so beautiful.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, because that's what scientists are looking for. Not the thing that confirms their theories, but the thing that disproves their theories. Because then all of a sudden you have to figure out there's another underlying truth, right? That's the whole thing. And you know, Einstein's relativity didn't disprove Newton. No. It just proved that there's a deeper layer, right? The Newton laws still work, right?
Well.
Just with
incredibly well.
Edge cases where really you need to account for the curvature of space-time, right?
Yeah.
And the same thing is going to be true whenever we figure out what the hell's going on with the early universe. Is like Einstein's still going to be right.
Yeah.
Right? That nothing's going to change because we've confirmed this shit too many times. But there's some edge cases like black holes where we get singularities, and the beginning of the universe where we get singularities where we're just like, yeah, there's something not quite right. There's an edge case there that we need to figure out what the underlying truth is. And so
that's exciting.
That's exciting.
Yeah, that's why following, astronomers is so fun, because they're all about, what I thought was completely wrong, and that's fine. I can't wait to keep exploring this deeper.
Yeah, astronomers are fantastic.
Yes.
That and DNA stuff, right? We're doing so much with DNA right now with CRISPR and that technology. So those are sort of the two places where I still see a lot of exploration going on. But less so, like, I really feel like the computer science area has really sort of plateaued in terms of what it's been doing lately.
Other than, like, the camera being better on my iPhone that I just had to get because I dropped my iPhone 11 in a hole by accident. The camera's better, but other than that, it's not that much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen to a podcast about why that is just the other day.
Yeah, I dropped my iPhone in a hole and I couldn't get it back out.
What hole? What kind of hole could eat your phone?
Yeah.
Okay, so underneath my backyard is some sort of foundation that was probably like a septic tank or something that got like crushed, and then they went over it with dirt to make my backyard. So then the groundhogs and stuff that crawl around in there made a bunch of holes, and a sinkhole developed. And I accidentally threw Baron's tennis ball into the sinkhole, and I leaned over to see if I could see it, and my iPhone was in my hoodie pocket, and it slipped right out into the hole.
No.
I could not get it back. Literally, like, the whole top half of my body was like in the hole and just my legs sticking out, and I had a headlamp on, and it was just gone. It's just gone.
Well, I guess sometimes the Earth gods need a phone.
I know. I was like, well, that's going to be some really interesting archaeological information. Like, why are we finding this phone in between these two cement blocks or slabs of concrete? What could this person have been doing back in 2024? Or a skunk. I've had those around too. One or the other. It could just be like we're having a blast on TikTok, getting famous.
Yes, the groundhogs of Nim. I'm here for
Probably.
it.
So let's finish up this Elaida POV, right? Or the Tarna POV. Basically, she says, Egwene's being stubborn. It's been 9 days. She hasn't been broken yet. I'm going to have dinner. Send her to attend me at dinner tonight like a little peasant novice. Which we all know leads to the soup spilling.
The soup!
Yeah, which is such a fun...
Soup. And then she also talks about the wards, how they're keeping the rats out of the food, but there have been ravens sighted in the tower grounds.
Dun, dun,
and so those wards on the walls are crumbling.
And I bet the wards in the tower are all deteriorating, right? They might redo them, they might work for a little while, but like a week later it's gonna be like, nope, they failed again, right? Like they're not holding up, and you're gonna have to redo them more and more and more often to the point where it's pointless.
Yeah, and you're always going to be finding out they failed by virtue of seeing spies in the tower, right? You're gonna have to shoot them out. They're gonna get intel. So yeah, things are crumbling. That's great.
So can I be honest? I was reading the redone wards, and I read that word as the red one wards.
I
was
did
like,
too.
what, the red one wards.
I
Yeah.
was like, what's red one?
You know,
Yeah.
I think I did too.
Really?
I had to reread it being like
Red
go
one
slow,
Yeah.
like Redua with red.
But that's why I hesitated when I was reading that. I was like, the red one? The redone
Yeah.
wards.
Even when I just glanced at
Yeah.
it, I was like, yeah, red one. That's a word.
I
Because
completely
we're talking
agree.
about red Ajab right now, so obviously that's just a word.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
brain.
Dyslexia has entered the chat.
And then we switch to Matt's POV. Anything else to say about Elaida and Tarna?
Nah, she is a complete mess of a drunk now. And
Yeah.
honestly-
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But how long exactly do we think it is before the attack? How many more days does she have to enjoy this life
Jeez.
that she?
Let me pull up the timeline.
Oh, that's a good question because that's a ways off. Because that's the day after she lets Egwene get pulled back out of the cells after everything seriously goes to shit.
Mm-hmm. It can't be long.
So the raid on Tarvalin is in the middle of Towers of Midnight, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's about 3... Oh gosh, I forget what the timeline
Right
is,
after
but it's
the
about,
Baron scene.
I think, like 3 weeks.
Yeah, we need a timeline of Egwene's time in the tower specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get a graph, please?
Yeah, probably about 2 or 3 weeks. No, I don't know.
That's no, maybe a little longer than that because
She's there for a while.
yeah.
Super Skylake says, what timeline has it updated through Memory of Light? So they should have it.
It can't be more than a couple weeks. So I was just wondering because this timeline's so condensed right now. Is it like quite close?
I'm thinking her entire captivity is like close to a month of Randland time, so it would be 2 or 3 weeks from now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, if she's been here for a week and
She's
it's been
been there
happen
for a
2 or
week.
3 weeks, then it would
Yeah.
be like
So,
3 or 4
Haha,
weeks.
you don't have much longer.
Yes,
Elaida.
yes. All that.
Enjoy
to say.
it while it lasts. Drink a lot of wine because I don't think they're gonna give you that as a Damane.
No, I don't think that Damane need the sweet release of being drunk for a hot minute.
Wonder if she would have withdrawals. Wonder if Aes Sedai can get addicted to alcohol that hard.
I don't know. They don't get morning sickness because reasons, so they probably don't get addiction for
They
reasons.
probably don't.
Except for to the one power, obviously. Oh, there's the link.
Okay, so according to the timeline, Egwene is taken away on March 29th, and then May 31st is when she's rescued.
2 months.
Oh wow, that's longer than I thought.
But it's 40 days in
Oh,
Randland.
So yeah,
weeks.
one month for them.
So 4 weeks, yeah.
I mean, depending on how you count weeks and months, Robert.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
right.
so a their month about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So she doesn't have even a whole month left. Good.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
my main point is you're going down. And I hate, Soldam and Damani, but like I didn't hate when that scene happened when I first read it.
I hated how
Yeah.
little I hated it.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
I
Me
should
too.
not
I
be
was
as
like,
okay with this as
This
I
is
am.
horrible.
Mm.
But like, fuck you, Elaida. Like seriously.
Mm-hmm. When you condemn other people to a fate worse than death, it's kind of hard to feel sympathy when you also receive the same fate.
Right, especially when she's like, if you let me go, I'll give you 10 women in my place. I was like,
Yeah.
and now I don't have complicated feelings.
Right,
Now I
that
think you deserve
happened.
it. Now you have
No.
to stay there.
Yeah.
But like,
Knowing she's telling the truth, right? because she is under the oaths.
Right, yeah, and it's just like...
of course she would.
I was conflicted right up until you said, I am worth 10 other people. No, you're not. You are worth yourself. That is what you are worth. You are not worth 10 other people. Fuck all the way off.
Go... I guess you'll just have to go be a Jemani, which I wish I knew how that situation worked out. Speaking of...
Poorly.
Matt, who should have been able to work that situation out.
Oh, Matt.
I know.
Matt. Matt and his bitch-ass slaver girlfriend.
Yeah.
Shall I read us into the Matt section then?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
See.
All right.
You're like, I want to start bitching about Matt already. I'm like, let me read it. Let me read it.
She wants to start talking about mountains.
Yeah, truly. I just want to get to the mountains.
That's true. You have a one-track mind.
I do.
I tell you what.
I do.
Just always thinking about those ginormous tracts of land.
I do.
I'm not even in geology, and I think about mountains a lot too, so, I get it.
The midday sun cast dappled light through the leafy branches of the tall trees, mostly oak and leatherleaf and sorghum with a smattering of cottonwoods and massive pines. Apparently, there had been a fierce windstorm some years back, because fallen timber, scattered about here and there but all stretched in the same general direction, provided good seating with only a little hatchet work to hack away a few limbs. Sparse undergrowth allowed a good view in all directions, and not far off, a clear stream splashed over mossy stones. It would have been a good campsite if Matt had not been intent on covering as much ground as he could every day, but it did just as well as a place to rest the horses and eat. The Damana Mountains still lay at least 300 miles to the east, and he intended to reach them in a week. Vanindred said he knew a smuggler's pass, purely by hearsay, of course, just something he had overheard by chance, but he knew right where to find it. That would have put them inside Murindi 2 days after that, much safer than trying to go north into Andor or south toward Ilion. In either direction, the distance to safety would be further, and the chance of encountering the Shan-Chan greater. But yeah, so that gives us a background of what he's doing and where he's traveling. They end up not being able to get through the pass, right?
Yeah, it collapses. It had collapsed and killed some of Talmanis and some of the Band of the Red Hand.
Yeah, like in a page, we hear that, nope, that's not gonna work.
Yep.
So then my question is, and I couldn't figure it out very quickly, even when reading forward, where does he end up going?
He has to go up the main road. And that's why he attacks the Shan-Chans, because they're blocking the main road. They were going to go sneaky through a smuggler's pass, but the smuggler's pass got cut off, so instead they had to take the main thoroughfare.
So they're going through the Maldive Narrows, which is the 5-mile wide pass that everybody knows about. That's like the main way through.
Yeah, with the road. That's where they have to go, I guess.
Uh-huh. Right. And it's blocked by Shan-Chan, and that's what he's like, I'm going to make them pull the plug. That's the plug is on the main road to get out.
And they've got all the maps. So, and Matt has a way bigger army now that he had no idea about. So.
Right, Matt doesn't even know the size of his own army at this point.
No, he doesn't.
Well, they brought a good chunk of it, but not even all of it.
So then my question is here where he says going north into Andor or south towards Ilion. Which of those two directions does he go?
He heads north into Andor. He runs into Varen along the way, and she hop-skippity jumps him to Camelin the rest of the way, but he heads towards Andor. That's his goal.
Thank you. That was the question I had, is I was like, there's going to be one or the other, but...
Yeah, but I genuinely don't remember what he decides in the immediate term direction-wise, but I know that he's trying to get to Andor, and that's where he ends up via Varen, who just gateways him there. But then she makes him stay there with the letter that she's sure he's going to open, blah, blah, blah. Brandon Sanderson, why'd you got to do that to us, etc., etc. But Andor is the goal, and that is what he achieves ultimately. So I assume he chooses north when he gets on the road.
Yeah.
There's just a couple of sentences here, like the bossomy woman... Tuon folding her arms beneath her breasts. It's just, Matt's very focused on boobs in this chapter.
He is.
Yeah.
Look, Matt, we all like mountains. but like, just calm down.
All the mountains are in this chapter.
Huge tracts of land.
Yes. Yeah, there's just a very very domestic, like comedic kind of like interactions between the characters, and they're like flirting and teasing and interacting and being friends and being enemies and just doing their thing, vibing, and it's fine.
She said, "Don't wipe your greasy hands on your pants. That's what napkins are for." And then he does it deliberately just to piss. They're getting
like
dirty.
Making
yeah.
eye contact like a cat knocking something off of the counter, just like
I was gonna say your dog shitting on your
Yeah,
carpet,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
just
totally.
making contact while he does it. Like, you can't stop me. I'm doing it right here, right now.
It's a whole thing. Very frustrating. But I mean, I find the entire dynamic frustrating. Like, first of all, that's gross. You're gonna have like you're going to stink like chicken in a way that you didn't have to when there's literally a napkin right there. And also, two, on stop trying to control other people just because you're a slaving empire person doesn't mean you have to micromanage literally everybody all the time. Like, just stop.
Yeah, it's probably pretty hard for an empress or a princess, whatever she was before, to stop that. But
I mean, Empress in
She's-
waiting, basically.
yeah,
In the wings.
Huan is something else.
Yeah.
I love the first moment of Matt lighting the pipe with a match.
Yes.
Right? This is the first moment a match
Yes.
gets used to light a pipe, which, I mean, just because I know Jordan loved pipes and I know he likes smoking a pipe and I know he probably had books of matches, right? He probably cared
I
a lot
love
about
books of matches.
the quality of his matches. Yeah, exactly.
It's such a good collection thing. My granddad had a huge collection of them. And then Eludra's like, those shouldn't be wasted. And like, that's like the thing that they are going to be used for, or like have been used for, I guess, in the previous age.
Sorry, Aludra,
So much.
but that's what they're
most,
mostly going to
yeah.
get used for. Like,
Yeah, sorry, that's it. lighting pipes and cigarettes.
occasionally a cooking fire. Occasionally,
Yeah, but also as advertisement too. That's a big thing.
Right, I know.
But-
Matchbook makers are going to pop up in like the year after the last battle is over, like immediately.
Yeah, immediately there's going to be little logos and
yeah.
for like your inn could give out matchbooks. Yeah.
Mhm.
So since we are my wedding is going to be a camping wedding, one of the things we're giving out is matchbooks so you can
Oh,
light a camping
perfect.
fire,
See,
right?
okay.
And they are
Yes,
branded
yes,
matchbooks.
correct.
That's perfect.
For which, sorry, fire sticks.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's exactly what we're doing, which is, I thought it was kind of funny. Is like, it's part of the plan, is one of the things we're giving out.
That's a fun thing.
Favorites.
I have
Yeah.
a matchbook from my granddad's collection that says King's Landing, which is, Game of Thrones. And I have
that's
no
cool.
idea where this actual King's Landing that my granddad went was, because that's all it says on it. But I assume it was like a hotel or something like that.
There are
in
King's
the
Landings out there.
the
Yeah,
60s, 50s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's really old.
that's great though. But yeah, I also like the little note where he's like, and you have to let the sulfur burn off before you draw the fire into the pipe.
Yeah,
That's a very
uh-huh,
important technique.
Or else it's going to taste like ass.
You only
right?
have to learn that lesson once, but
What, everybody just does it once, and then you're like, oh, wait a second.
Yeah,
Because, those chemicals on the end do not taste good.
No.
yeah, that smoke is a special kind of nasty, even at secondhand. Like, you don't want that in your face. No.
But once it burns down to the wood, then you're just burning wood, and you got good old fire.
Yeah, that's just fire smoke. That's not a big deal.
Wood smoke.
Not in the same way that burning sulfur
Yeah.
is. Ugh.
Right. And I do like that he's like, I take no chances with fire in the woods.
Yes,
He makes
Smokey
sure
Bear
Yes,
approves
I highlighted
of
that.
Matt's.
Yeah.
I highlighted that.
Only Matt can prevent forest fires.
Yes. I just like
Yeah, and he's like, I've seen just the villagers trying to fight forest fires in the two rivers back home. We're not. This is
I
bad.
very much appreciated that he was like, no, you don't just drop it to the ground and assume it's fine. You grind that shit to death.
Thank you, Matt.
Now, if I remember correctly, Eludra's one of the few characters who doesn't get paired off with anyone. Is that right?
Yeah.
No, she doesn't. Yeah.
She is delightfully unpaired.
Like, it's one of the mainer characters, right? Yeah.
Like, it's a bit of a bummer that she lost Matt to Tuon.
I know.
Yeah, they would
But
be awesome.
They would have
together.
been such a better couple, but
But I also like this thing here where she's like, men find ways to make work for women. Yes? Like, this is...
yeah.
There's a certain amount of... I'm not sure Eludra would ever put up with all of Matt's bullshit. Like, as much as they work together...
I think she'd love to be fuck buddies with him and
Right,
like work
right.
together professionally, but like we're not doing
No.
anything more complicated than that.
No. No.
Yeah, no, I do like that. I wish we got more characters like her that were able to be paired off, were able to not be paired off, or like pair off with their work, you know, because that's basically what she does. Is she's like, I have my work. My work is going to take up my energy, and I just wish we got more of that.
It almost was like overbearing amount of pairing off of people.
Yeah,
And then
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Like, now, reading back, you can kind of see even the beginnings of some of the relationships, and you get it. But like, I was just like, whoa, everybody's just gonna end up married by the end. I think they basically did. Like everybody. It was like not obviously not nearly as bad, but the Harry Potter epilogue.
Anyway, super unrelated to Wheel of Time.
Yeah. Wow. Sorry. Big tangent.
Blah, blah, blah. Friends. We're having friends. Okay, we're talking. We've got Lylewyn. We have Matt finally admitting that Lylewyn's name is Lylewyn.
Yes.
Stop dead naming her.
Yeah, we're respecting people's chosen names. Thank you, Matt. Julian is vibing. He's feeling comfortable.
I have some questions about Luca, right? So Luca rushed into town to take care of the bargaining himself once he heard about a merchant dead in the streets. What merchant dead in the streets and what bargaining? Why is he rushing in town to do this? I'm very confused by that statement.
Remember when Matt got attacked in the street after taking Tuon to a hell?
Okay, yeah.
A merchant led that gang.
Got it. Okay.
And Matt said, there's no way that the city magistrates will believe that a respected merchant just attacked us for no reason. We have to bounce right now. And the circus was like, agreed, we will get lynched if we're around when this gets discovered. So,
I'll get the horses.
Yeah.
So Luca goes into town to get the horses because Matt can't because he got...
Yeah, Luca wasn't at the hell.
Because the merchant was a dark friend who had gotten orders that he needed to murder Matt. And, Matt was unwilling to be murdered for reasons that should be obvious.
And that was we saw that in the prologue, right? The orders to murder Matt and
yeah,
Karen.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, them too.
Yeah, you can't kill Rand, but you can kill the other two. That will be acceptable. And the other two were like, nah.
I also like Matt slipping a purse to Petra and Clarine for their inn.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that. He talks about not spending money, but he's so nice with giving it out to people. Like, then we get their inn started, and
here's your down payment.
Yeah.
Right.
I love that Lylewyn is still making a point to not avoid Tuon or Salisha or lower eyes when they meet. She's like, I'm done being a sunshine, and like, yeah, this is her new name, and first she accepted, but not the rest of it.
Right.
And that's yes, Lylewyn, she's an interesting one.
And Amathera is like basically hero worshipping her at this point. Like, it's on another level than a crush. Like, she's just like, I just want to be you when I grow up. Like, that's where Amathera is with Lylewyn, and that's an interesting relationship to track.
And I love thinking about Lylewyn being on the path to becoming Egwene's warder.
Yeah.
And I know that was just for a second at the end of the books, and I don't think it really got the time it deserved, because I would have loved to see her be the warder earlier. That, like, just this shit with Gawain, she finally goes, fine, I don't need you, will bond this person who saved my life, right? And not deal with any of that crap with Gawain.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I like, because it was hinted at long
It was prophesized,
ago. So long ago, when she had that dream of the light getting knocked off and like the Shan-Chin like reaching a hand down to save her or something like that. It's a long time ago she had a dream that she knew was prophetic, and she was like, why would a Shan-Chin be saving me? And it was books ago.
Yeah.
I wish that had been more. I wish I knew what was planned there. Exactly.
It felt like it was going to be so much more than it ended up being. Like you said, it needed more airtime. Everything was there. It just needed more space to breathe. Yes. Less Gawain, more Lylewyn.
Less Gawain.
Right. And like, let's give Egwene, let's have her grow and come to trust a Seanchan and realize that yes, the Seanchan did bad things to me, but it doesn't mean everybody in Seanchan is a bad person. Let's have Lylwyn grow and realize that Egwene is this incredible person and that channeling isn't a bad thing, and that she really needs to understand that people who have power can rule themselves. Like, and let's have them save each other's lives and grow in mutual respect. And then, maybe have Lylwyn sacrifice herself, right? Because she made the sin of turning over the sad bracelets, right? Like,
and then Egwene feels actually sad because she actually came to care for her, and it's this healing catharsis full circle thing.
Yes.
Oh god, that would have been so good.
That's okay. We can believe in stuff. That's
Many
and then
worlds
she could
theory.
be banging Gawain, and like that can be fine, but he can go off and sacrifice himself, and she could be sad about that without sacrificing herself.
Why doesn't he go sacrifice himself for his sister? He's the first prince of the damn sword.
Seriously.
Exactly. Yeah, then he can go do that.
Go do that.
Do your job.
Right? Like,
seriously. You have one job. But you have two jobs.
Meanwhile, Brigida's like, you had to pull me out of the
She shouldn't
fucking
even
dream to
be
take your
there.
place. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
How much is that the pattern going, all right, Gawain, if you don't do your job, I'll get a hero of the horn to
Literally.
do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Literally.
Like,
When your
I'll make
understudy
I'll
is
use
a hero
Morgedian.
of the horn.
Yeah.
Like, how much do you
Right.
have to suck when a hero of the horn has to clean up your mess?
Right, and maybe Gawain could have become that hero, right? If he'd been in that spot.
Yeah, if he'd been literally anything other than who he was.
Listen, I love everything about you. I just need you to change just one little thing. What's that?
Everything. And where you are and the way you talk.
Yeah, how you act and the way you talk and the way you walk. And yeah. That's how I feel about Gawain.
Yeah, basically.
So glad I've never been on for his chapter.
It was just such a betrayal because we all liked him in the beginning. He was the fun one that helped Rand.
He could have been a cool character.
He was supposed to be a cool character.
Who thinks he's cool?
But if you look at the I was gonna say Shakespearean, the Arthurian legends, right? Gawain was a bit of a dick, right? There's the whole betrayal thing.
That's
and
true.
like there's some basis in the Arthurian legend that I think Jordan is trying to stick to that turns Gawain into, an awful, awful person.
Gawain Tragand.
Speaking of which, right? Isn't that coming up?
Yes,
Yeah.
What Idol.
What Idol.
The deadline for What Idol
Yay.
got extended to the
26th, I think. Yeah,
26th?
which will still be after this comes out, but
Cool.
after this comes out, and then the show itself supposedly is going to be on the 2nd and 3rd of July will be the 2 preliminary rounds, and then the 6th, I think, that Saturday is going to be the finals. I would not be surprised if they had to add another day because like they're already up to 50
That'd be fine.
submissions. Last year I guess it was 78 was how many they got, and 2 days was really, really long. A really long 2 days to do the preliminary things and then the final. So if they get more than last year, that's going to be some real long days. But yeah, set aside some time on July 2nd, 3rd, and I believe 6th. Links for that will be in the description because it's going to be a good time. As a reminder, I have an entry that I made all by myself without Seth's help. And just for you guys, I'll give you one little hint about it. Gawain is the central character. I made Gawain the character of mine.
Yay.
God, we just love to hate on him, don't we? He's not even in this chapter and we're hitting on him extensively.
No, I was just going to say, I'm really glad I never accidentally gotten on for a Gawain chapter because none of mine have been planned, but
Honestly, it's the worst thing about the last battle. It's a fucking Gawain chapter.
yeah. There's
It opens up as a Gawain POV and you're like, wait.
Yeah, that
a
does-
minute.
It was fine for Dumai's Wells. I was totally fine to accept it for Dumai's Wells to be a Gawain POV. That's fine. That's a trash chapter where everything goes to hell in a handbasket. It's fine for him to be in it. But the last battle.
the last battle. That's a Harry Potter book length.
Yeah, right.
Oh well,
Exactly.
we get a lot. Well, at least we get a lot of POVs throughout.
Yes,
But
yes.
the start does
Right,
matter.
right.
The start does matter.
Here, speaking of things that are not starting, we get yet another mention of Shara. Very subtle little mention of a great coastal city that foreigners were not allowed to leave except by ship, and the inhabitants were not allowed to leave at all. Sounds very Dutch trading port in the shuttered island of Japan sort of energy. And just not even mentioning the name Shara, not mentioning Silk, not mentioning the weird channeler stuff, just the weird port city
but
thing.
Beyond the Aiel
Beyond
waste.
the Aiel
Beyond the
waste.
Aiel.
It's just...
That tells you it's Shara,
little tiny crumbs, little itsy bitsy crumbs. And as usual, coming from Noel, because Noel is also here in this domestic scene playing snakes and foxes with Oliver, while Aludra, I also want to point out, Aludra is playing stones with Tom, and she has won 2 out of 12 games with Tom, and Tom is like, oh, you are something.
That, I didn't catch that whole
Yeah.
That's crazy. I need to highlight that. How did I miss that?
It's very quick and subtle, but yeah, Tom is very impressed with Aludra because she's actually beat him more than once at all.
I am impressed.
She invents gunpowder and cannons all without on paper, right? Like her cannons that she invents on paper work. She has the engineering skill to just do that.
She can see it in her head.
She is
run all those models.
Incredibly smart. Yeah,
she's brilliant.
She is the Illuminators Guild in a lot of ways.
She doesn't do battlefield stuff. She doesn't do political stuff. She does engineering. And yet the intelligence required to do that sort of modeling in her head is sufficient to allow her to actually compete with Tom on a stones board, which we know is a barometer of your overall like strategic intelligence, 4-dimensional chess tomfoolery.
And Matt's like, can you just please play a different game? I promised I would go.
Well, he doesn't want to see the snakes and foxes, right? Because that just reminds him of the deal.
Right, yeah,
because he just read the letter,
went back to the Noel. Oliver playing snakes and foxes. Matt's just like, damn it, will you just play another game? I don't want to think about that promise that I made that I'm definitely going to keep because I'm Matt, but I really don't feel like it.
Right. Yeah. And then
all the Suldam learning to channel.
Yep. Sort of the resolution of their storyline, right? Like this is
another ending,
right? They got captured by like all the way back when Matt captured them to now. Basically, we get the story of the Suldam where they're captured, dragged along, realize they can channel, fight against it, are convinced that they can channel and that they should learn, and now they're going to be learning how to channel and basically become novices in the White Tower.
Except Teslin won't teach them, but I understand.
Well,
Teslin has good reasons.
I would not agree to teach them either if I were Teslin.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how the Suldam, when they capture, in all of their propaganda, they are constantly saying, you have to accept who you are, you'll find peace with the leash, you need to accept that you're not a woman, you're a tool. All of this stuff, all this propaganda that they tell people. Tuon says it, all this stuff. Then they get captured. They come to this place where they're discovering that they can channel. They're fighting against it, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, Bethaman asks to learn, is told no, and manifests the ability so that she can learn. And now her face somehow seems strangely calm. And Matt is going, why is that? Why would you be calm? And I'm like, that's the acceptance that they were making propaganda about, except that they were, again, doing some kind of like conversion therapy, applied behavioral analysis bullshit, to try to convince themselves to be content with being slaves, when the reality is you need to be content with the fact that you're a channeler. Accepting yourself does bring contentment. They were just trying to force a definition of self that was not true with all of their training. But the contentment's real.
And it had to be not that hard to get it. Like when you've been a Suldam for a long time and you obviously have this affinity with knowing when your Suldam's channeling what, and even some of them admitting to being able to see it, but for really trying to tell themselves they're not. But like, it's not like these were inexperienced Suldam. They must have brought their best from Chan, really, I would think, to be in the return. So they've been doing it for a long time. And yeah.
Matt is convinced that he's left the golem behind. He is wrong.
Highlighted that.
The golem is on his. Yep.
Silly
Sorry,
Matt.
Matt. Golem's
Silly
right on
Matt.
you. Yep, silly Matt.
You've dropped it for a few days.
He's like, I should feel content.
Yeah. And he's like, I should be content, but I'm not, partially because I refuse healing and I have a bunch of infected cuts all over my body.
Yeah, that's not great.
It's like the first time anyone's ever gotten an infection in this entire book series, which seems very unrealistic, but hey.
It's Matt always getting infected with things. First Shadow Logan, now an actual infection.
Matt, you should get your immune system checked out. You seem very infectable.
Well, everybody else lets themselves get healed,
exactly.
right? Even
Like,
if you have a wound, right, and it takes a couple of days to get healed, it's still not going to get infected.
I know you don't want to take off the medallion, and I wouldn't either, but like, if I broke my leg like that, I would take it off for a minute and get healed.
Right?
I think.
And like Perrin gets really badly infected with the arrowhead before he gets healed.
Oh yeah, never mind. He does get infected too.
Oh, that's true. But it had like Trolloc poison on it or whatever. Or no.
No, I thought it was, yeah.
No, it was like caught on the rib and it got, but no, you're right. This is like one of the only times we've had an infection. We've had a lot of wounds, but you're right. Most wounds get healed right away.
But they didn't have an Aes Sedai. Perrin didn't have an Aes Sedai to heal him right away.
Yeah, and Perrin had to wait for like 2 days with it like cracking a rib.
Yeah, and then he did get Aes Sedai healing after that.
So I feel like Jordan makes a point of saying, like, yeah, if you don't get the Aes Sedai healing, or at least, and I think he also says a healer also can provide antiseptic. Like that seems to be something they have.
Definitely.
You know, clearly that's what gets applied to his wounds here eventually. But there seems to be some sort of antiseptic that they can use, some sort of neosporin or whatever that can fight the infection. So
witch hazel or something.
yeah, whatever they know how to use, right? It's clear that just like birth control, Jordan's like, yeah, they got nerfed.
Yeah.
Like, and moved on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Matt's getting sewed up, and Tuon's watching him like property.
Oh, yeah.
Making sure they sew him up correctly.
Talking about the healing.
Like, on the one hand, she's showing concern, which is good. On the other hand, her proprietary air is deeply problematic and not at all someone I would want to marry. I don't want to marry someone who looks at me like I'm property to be repaired.
No. Yeah, and then that's when she brings up the healing.
Right, and sort of how wonderful it is that the Damani are going to learn it, and she's going to pass it on, yeah.
And then the snake.
Yeah.
Well, the Tuon and Selusha are talking first with their hands.
But before that, there is the line, the bloody dice drummed inside his head for 2 days. So in the last 2 days, he's had the dice. And do we know how those dice stop? Do we know what they stop for?
Matrim Cawthon is my bloody husband.
Yep.
These are the marriage dice.
These are the marriage dice. These don't stop till he's married.
He says there hardly seemed any way they could stop here in the forest.
Well.
Oh, well, then I guess it's probably going to be in a forest.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
Clearly
exactly
it's
where
going to happen in
be.
a forest.
What kind of momentous event could happen in a forest or the woods? And I caught that line too, and I was like, well, what about that awesome forest that Rand makes like after the big meeting? I was yeah, what kind of momentous stuff could happen in a forest? Let's wait a few books and see. Also, those dice, I'm pretty sure they're in a forest when she leaves.
Well, yeah, totally. And it's tied to the foretelling, right? Her, beware the fox that makes the ravens fly, for he will marry you and carry you away. Beware the man who remembers Hawking's face, for he will marry you and set you free. Beware the man of the red hand, for him you will marry, and none other. So the man of the red hand is a really important clue that she will marry him.
Yeah, she's seen a lot of her clues, but she hasn't seen anything that 100% confirms it. And then she sees good old Tom Manus's, the only thing he has on his coat, doesn't have any of his Kyrian stripes, just the red hand. And she's like, oh shit. But I mean, obviously that's her point of view next chapter. But
yeah, and so then there's only one thing left. He has to set her free. Once he does that, every bit of the foretelling has been fulfilled.
That's a fun foretelling, like fulfilled in fun ways.
Yeah,
that's one of my.
It's a good one.
I enjoy this prophecy, and I'm not a huge enjoyer of prophecies, even though obviously I love this whole series more than anything, and it's all about the prophecy of the Dragon Reborn, but also how wrong it is and how many interpretations there are. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I love this one.
And honestly, I think at each line being fulfilled, the dice stop. Right?
Yeah, they
when
do.
Tuon sees his ring, his dice stops. That's the fox that makes the ravens fly. When she asks him about Hawkwing's face, don't the dice stop?
I mean,
Yep.
It has to be. Yeah, it's every one.
And then when he sets her free, every one is a dice stop. Every fulfilling of a line of the prophecy, Jordan emphasizes, has a dice stop to it.
I mean, not surprising, of course, but yeah, so what kind of momentous event could happen in the woods?
Yeah. Well, he sets her free is basically what it boils down to. Yeah. But yeah, now the snake.
I love the snake. Matt, first of all, he's making sure he's not setting a forest fire. Then he's letting wildlife be. When it's like, dude, that was probably that snake's den and you're just sitting on it. Like, no, you're not going to go kill it. Like, it's not attacking you. Matt is like a nature warrior right here in this chapter. And I am loving that aspect of him.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it.
I was trying to tie it to some prophecy, but I couldn't.
No, I couldn't either. He's just him being a good country boy that knows that snakes are important for the ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, truly. He's having a moment of multi-classing as a druid and a rogue.
Yes, and I love that. And that's how I grew up. And thank you, Matt. I don't know. Just one of the other reasons I'm always drawn to him as a character.
Yeah, no, it's nice because you do think of him as being very blasé and casual about death and violent and all these, just good with a sword. And he's like, why would you kill this creature? It's completely blameless. Like, you silly man, Julian.
That's literally your house. You're probably sitting in its house, and we just stopped here. Let it go.
And it's a different side of Matt than we usually see, because we usually see him doing political, military, people, city stuff. We don't usually see him interacting with wildlife. And one of the only times we do, he's stolen a badger from its home for some reason. So, like,
well, yeah, But also he was carefree.
But he lets it go free. It's not he eases it. It's not like
he does let it go free. It probably had a traumatizing day, but got out of it alive.
We get the interaction where, again, Matt learns about names because he tries to call Tuon Precious, and she's like, I won that game.
She did.
I'm not responding to Precious anymore.
I love how that implies that she actually was accepting it. Like, she could have stopped that game at any time, but she just let it go. And it's like, no, like, this really is all about mind games. There's nothing being hard and fast here. This is all mind games, every last bit of it, which is like, I don't know if that makes me hate or like their courtship, because I'm not a mind games person, but it is kind of fun to watch people who are mind games people, like, doing it with each other. Because it's like, oh, look, the cultural safari. That's something I have no interest in.
Yeah, I would not enjoy experiencing it, but I definitely enjoy reading about it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we enjoy studying human interactions, like we're aliens who, what possibly is wrong with us?
Nothing's wrong with us. We're just part of the normal diversity of human brains and bodies, actually.
So apparently that being merciful to poisonous snakes is enough to really get Tuon turned on.
Honestly, it would be for me.
Which I feel like should be a turn off to Matt. That is a weird reason.
Yeah.
To kiss.
Out of everything else he's done.
So that worked
out
on
of
you?
everything else, yeah. But okay, so here's where I think the parallel is. She often compares Aes Sedai to poisonous snakes.
Oh my god.
Right? And so his mercy,
also, venomous.
right, with
venomous.
Yeah, venomous. Thank you. I apologize. You are correct. That was an appropriate correction. You pedantic.
Venomous.
Love you.
Anyway, love you too. So venomous snakes, but I think she calls them poisonous. So I think I'm okay in using that.
Right.
Bitch.
Yeah.
Yep, she says poisonous.
Yeah, there we go. I'm quoting. I'm not wrong. I'm quoting.
Okay, so but was Jordan being lazy, or was he making Tuon wrong deliberately?
Let's go with the second.
Why not?
Okay. I'll
I just don't think that became a real debate that people cared about until the internet became a thing, much after these books came out.
It's always been incorrect.
Also true.
Well, yeah, but it doesn't mean but people used it incorrectly, commonly.
People are wrong.
You're calling Robert Jordan wrong? Is that what you're doing?
Yes. Yes.
Ah,
Hey, look, people pay me the big bucks for that.
that's true. That is what we're here for. But yeah, that comparison, right? That what is his whole arc been, right? Letting the Aes Sedai go, freeing the Aes Sedai. And here he is letting a snake go. A poisonous, venomous snake.
I like it.
Because there's a lot of, even outside of Shantian, there's a lot of association between Aes Sedai and snakes, which I mean honestly goes back to like St. Patrick chasing the witches out of Ireland, right? Like, yeah, the great serpent.
The serpent.
There's a lot of snake imagery with the Aes Sedai. So I never thought of connecting those things, but I like it. And now the kiss makes sense because everything she does has layers and meaning and has analogies in it. And I wasn't seeing that in this interaction, so it felt nonsensical, but now it ties together.
And that whole argument about why would you let a venomous snake go is why would you let an Aes Sedai go? And he's like, they're not attacking me. They're not causing any harm. They're fleeing away from me. Why would I attack them? Right? Like, why? And I think that can go even into like Tuon's rationale about attacking the White Tower, which Brandon should have fucking changed her character after her interaction with Matt. Should have made her see that okay, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so no, this idea that like, oh, maybe I shouldn't attack the snakes in their tower. That's their home.
And yet he does attack the snakes and the foxes in their tower.
Yeah,
That's
okay,
true.
so then there's another layer to it, right?
I mean, he doesn't burn the house down, he just steals their prize, but still.
He just breaks the rules.
They're holding a prize from him. They're not innocuous going about their own business. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's not like he's stealing something that's indigenous to their environment. He's stealing a human back who's been taken.
I honestly don't think, I think the analogy applies to Aes Sedai, not to the snakes and foxes here.
Yeah.
I think, and this is, like I said, really glad I got to hop in on one of the chapters of this book, because Robert Jordan wrote this book, and that was a whole scene. Like, Chekhov's snake, something mattered there. Like,
Yeah, right.
Chekhov's
Yeah.
snake, I love
Yeah.
it wasn't just there for no reason.
Right. It can't be.
And chat has informed me that in Finnish, there is no distinction between poisonous and venomous.
Well, that's
Okay,
nice.
so Tuon speaks Finnish. We'll go with that.
Okay, all
I
right.
thought it was Texas or like deep south, deep southern,
Well, apparently they're using Finnish rules, so.
kind of an accent. You may kiss me now, toy. I don't know. I just thought I'd try out my Texas accent, even though I live nowhere near there.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
Mine's more Appalachian.
Yeah.
So, yeah, she invites a kiss. He gives her a very chaste kiss, and she calls it out for being way too PG.
Do I remind you of your mother?
And she folds her arm under her breasts. She's deliberately being like, "Well, no, check these out. Look, boing, boing. I am not an innocent little girl."
Kind of like when Min does the thing where she suddenly stands differently and like turns her like wrists out and like cocks her
With the
hip,
boots.
and like suddenly Randa's like, reduced to stammering.
She's sticking out her ass and tits, right? Like, that's basically what
Yeah,
she's doing
yeah.
in that stance.
And she wears high-heeled boots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, she goes
Right.
from standing like a boy to standing like a seducey woman. And Tuon is basically doing her best attempt at that, but she's no Domani. She doesn't know how this works. She hasn't studied under Lyanna. But she tries, and then Matt shows her how kissing works, and she's a very quick study.
But she uses that opportunity to test his
Oh my
temperature
God.
and tell that
Oh
he's
my
running a fever.
God.
She manipulates
Oh.
him. The kiss is still, even the first kiss, is still a manipulative
Which
reason.
she really enjoyed.
Oh, absolutely she did.
Her next perspective, that was fun. Like, but still, she's like, "Yeah, you're feverish. I knew it. Give me my potions.
Yeah.
Give me my potions, Solucia."
Yeah, just like pretends it didn't happen, basically. Like there's everyone
Yep.
standing around
Yep.
watching, whistling, clapping, and she just pretends it didn't happen because she's so like shocked by it. She's just like, we're gonna pretend that didn't happen.
Or maybe that's how she goes, is sort of coping, or like she's pretending like she was so flustered. She's like, "Oh God, I have to do something. Oh, you're feverish."
I'm taking my power back, or I'm taking
Yeah.
my.
Yeah.
That's how I interpret it, is that that's her covering for how flustered she feels by her. Like Matt is
Probably.
expecting her to like respond directly, and she's like way too exactly, she's way too controlled to do that, but she's also very flustered, so she resorts to a pretty ham-fisted, I was doing that to test your temperature.
Now take your clothes off.
Right, for science, it's for medical safety. We must remove your clothes. Yeah,
thankfully that's when Vanindred and Tom
and Vanindred enters the chat.
My time to shine. Vanindred walks up. I have to read this paragraph. Riders are coming, Hannon announced. One of them is Vanin. Matt swung onto Pips for a better vantage. A pair of horsemen were approaching at a gallop, dodging around fallen trees when they had to. Aside from recognizing Shell Vanin's done, there was no mistaking the man himself. Nobody else who was that wide and sat his saddle like a sack of suet could have maintained his seat at that pace without any apparent effort. Clearly, he's not actually that heavy. The man could have stayed in the saddle on a wild boar, because he's channeling his way on that. Then Matt recognized the other rider whose cloak was flailing behind him, and felt as if he had been punched in the belly. He would not have been surprised in the least had the dice stopped then, but they kept bouncing off the inside of his skull. What in the light was Telmanus bloody well doing in Altara? But yeah, just that little bit, right? Okay, just obviously Shelvanin running.
I highlighted that whole
or riding.
That whole part that you like emphasized. I was like, so much Vanindred in this chapter, and just like it's there, like
so obvious,
and especially because we just because we did have the Kylie back in the day and how she moved. And that when you first made that connection, I was like, oh my god, yeah, like I know how these books end, and I know it's not, but it should have been.
But it is. Yeah. He just didn't put it in the notes.
Yeah.
He should have.
Yeah.
Or like, if it's not, then what's going on here?
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I'm asking.
So let's talk about Telmanus, then we'll come back to Vanindred. So Telmanus, he's got a small red hand sewn in the breast of his dark coat. And that's his only decoration, right? So then Tuon's seeing the band of the red hand, and she's getting all excited.
Well, she's already excited.
Well, different kind of excited, let's say. And Rand saying, like, at least tell me you haven't brought the whole bloody band 300 bloody miles into Altara.
And Telmanus is like, no, I brought that many people, but it's not the whole band. So you're not mad, right?
What used to be the whole band. And I didn't bring the Masons.
Yeah, and I didn't bring the Masons. So, I mean, you really can't blame me for overpacking when I left the Masons at home.
You never know when you're going to need a bridge.
Yeah, he brought three banners of horse and 4,000 mounted crossbowmen. He left 3 banners of horse and 5 of foot. So that's 8 plus 3. It's 11 banners plus 4,000 mounted crossbowmen. When he left, there were 2 banners.
That's a big change.
Yeah.
And most of them came when Matt wasn't there. They came when Telmanus was in charge. What does that say about Telmanus' leadership?
Exactly, right? Telmanus, in a lot of ways, really is the instrument in which Matt gathers his army. Right? Telmanus is the leader of the band in a lot of ways.
Very true. Yeah. But also the time period where Matt was gone was a time period of huge major upheaval in all of these countries around where they were too.
True.
So like, even though people immediately needed new work. So it wasn't a hard time to build up a huge army. Not saying Telmanus didn't do a great job doing it and isn't a great leader. I love Telmanus, But
because remember, they were trailing after the tower, and they were collecting all the same people that Gareth Bryn was collecting, going through all those war-torn worlds, lands. Like, there's just a lot going on where they can pick people up, and we're recruiting. And they had the whole reason Egwene wanted them there is so that people would have to choose between the 2 armies, right? Because they thought there would be a battle any moment. So that's forcing people to join up. Yes, more join the White Tower's armies, but Matt got a lot of people out of that. Oh, yeah. Egwene did a lot to build up the band.
Yeah, totally.
And now Matt learns that she is actually Deanna Merlin's seat, because Donnie's like, no, she's got all those eyes to die by the scruffs of their neck, even if they don't know it yet.
Yeah, catching Matt up on like 2 books worth of Egwene plot.
Yeah.
Right. He's like, why aren't you hanging out with Elaine? And he's like, what? that ship sailed so long ago. Like, that's a plot point from book 5. Shut up. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, like, you were under a book the last time that we checked in, dude. Like, nah, or under a wall.
Yeah,
You're
under wall. Yeah.
I'm under a book.
You know, I know the books are the size of walls. It's an easy mistake to make.
Another book in the wall.
Matt's seeing Rand, so he sees Rand talking to Codswain twice. That's all I really pulled out of those.
Yeah, Codswain. That's what I wrote. Has to be.
That's relevant to the fact that a Plainwood box is coming up for episode 500. We will be having a very Codswain-centric time.
Mm-hmm.
Yay. Wow. Episode 500.
I know.
I also like how Tamanis has like a whole deal with King Rodrin to pay everybody, because Matt's like, I don't know how I'm going to pay those people. He's like, don't worry, I got a king to do it for you.
No, I've got a year's worth of pay, so we're good.
Yeah, Matt's like, I can't dice for that much gold. Tamanis is like, no, I brought enough money to pay them. Don't worry. Like, I'm a good second in command. I got this.
He's like, I'm a noble. I understand how to pay armies with kings. Like, I understand how that works. And we did.
This is basically my job.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically my job. This is what I used to do. Like, I got this. Yeah, how lucky was Matt when he pulled Telmanis as a second in command, right?
Taviran levels of lucky.
Yeah, exactly. You know.
Congratulations, Telmanis. You needed Taviran to pull you into the plot. All right, so then Selusha and Tuon ride up, and Selusha does the very, very obvious throat clearing at Matt until he remembers to introduce Tuon to this man who's clearly important. And Matt uses the introduction to lay out what he thinks the power dynamic should be, and then Telmanis betrays that Vannon told him what the actual situation is, and Matt can't use Telmanis to disrespect Tuon. Telmanis has already been told who she is.
And did you catch that Tuon gets super pissed at Matt here in the beginning? So Tuon was so straight in her mare's saddle, so cool-eyed, cold-faced, and regal, that he expected Selusha to start proclaiming her titles. She did nothing of the sort. Instead, she shifted on her dun and scowled at him, eyes like blue coals in a fire. She's pissed because she caught him in a lie. Telmanis rides up and says, oh, the Dragon Reborn's going to give you estates. He has raised men to rule nations, and so I hear you grew up with him. Meanwhile, Tuon's like, you told me you never fucking met the man, and you grew up with him? What? Like, meanwhile, so Tuon is livid right after that statement.
I just thought it was about being snubbed in the introductions. I did not even connect it to that being the moment that she figured that out. Because I remember that she gets mad about it later. She thinks about it. But this is the moment when she... nice catch. Nice.
Thank you.
Yeah, no wonder she's pissed. She's like, you are such a better liar than I thought.
You're a liar.
And then not just that he is a liar, but she thought she knew what his tells were, and now she's learning she doesn't know his tells, and that's unsettling.
She's like, oh, I thought I knew when you were lying.
Yeah, she doesn't. Yeah. She does not like that feeling at all.
Vannon pulled the sagging brim of his hat lower, hiding half his face. He still avoided looking directly at Matt. So it seemed the man had already told Telmanis exactly who Tuon was. Or he's hiding.
No, don't weaken Vanindred with spurious evidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's
all right. So then we get to talk about the problem of the landslide. Telmanis is like, so I got through, but on the way through, something Taviran knocked down the mountain behind me, and even when I sent men back through to check, some of them got hurt. So like, we're not getting back through the way I came in.
See, that I do think is Vanindred evidence. Vannon goes out to scout, and the one place he knows he can get through, he knocks it down. He's trying
to set them up for this battle.
Yeah. Oh, a random landslide? How hard is it for him to channel a landslide, right? Just knock over.
For the only path that he knew, and he was the navigator. So even if there is another path, he's not telling him about it.
Right. And like, Matt's luck tends to work in the preventing landslides direction, not in the causing landslides direction. He doesn't need this battle. This battle is not necessary for his plot.
Right. And they lost people, right? That's not lucky in no way. Like, sure, if they couldn't go through the pass, it could have landslided afterwards, but they killed the rear guard and some of the pack horses. Like, the whole rear guard,
that is very unlucky.
Maybe they just hadn't passed through, but he says he lost them.
I mean, one assumes that the slide came down on them as they were coming through.
On them.
Like, he genuinely was like, they were swept away. And that is deeply unlucky. The band is lucky. So.
And you know who would do that? A Forsaken, who was like, I need to block the pass. I'll let most of them go through and then just kill the last few through.
Yeah, and some of the pack animals just to take a few more supplies out of the picture. Like, yeah. No, I think that solidly fits with Vanindred. That is not spurious evidence. That's good evidence.
Okay, no, it looks like one just broke. Well, okay, just one broke his neck and another his leg when he sent people back to check it out.
Yeah, so he lost people coming through. He lost people trying to go back through to.
So yeah, that's not Band of the Red Hand type luck. Vanindred.
Yeah, so somebody is there making sure that they die if they try and come back. That's what. Yep. They didn't just break their neck and fall because it was a rock slide. No. Those men can climb.
Yeah, Vanindred wants them to get in trouble and fight on the road mainly. And so first he has to defuse Matt's request to find another pass through the mountains. Matt's like, well, you just find another way. And
maybe there could be other ways. He could be lying about it.
Right. And then he says, well, an Aes Sedai told me once that that's not possible.
Right.
Really, Vannon? Really? You hang out and talk with Aes Sedai and take them seriously? Really?
Yes.
That's about as likely as Matt reading a book when Matt says, I read it in a book once. Right?
If he were just a horse thief that they picked up off the side of the road, when has he been hanging out with Aes Sedai?
Right. And this is like not just like a casual comment he may have overheard.
It's
this is a whole
story.
Fucking lesson. A story about how the continents work and why these mountains work this way and those mountains work that way. And it's got like science behind it. He didn't just like overhear this or make a casual comment.
Not a passing comment. Yeah. Like
no. You know who would know this? Demandred, who studied the mountains after he woke up because he's a fucking geologist and knows that shit from the Age of Legends.
And he used to live here before the breaking, so he recognizes the mountain ranges that were here before, even if they may have been underwater. I'm sure they had underwater mapping technology and knew about like the seafloor.
Yeah. I don't know about Demandred being a geologist. I take issue with that, but
no, but he would know about what the land looked like before,
But he would understand that geology was a thing that existed, right? In the same way that I'm not a geologist, but I understand like
because it talks about some of the mountains having been on the ocean floor before, and those are old, and now the world's broken and they're the land. But some are from the breaking, so those are just like a maze.
Yeah.
And who knows that? Even of the Aes Sedai, who knows that much about like the geology of the old mountains that were around before the breaking?
Well, and like, okay.
Right.
Maybe a brown.
But definitely some of the browns. And like, even if...
Yeah, definitely some of the browns, but...
And like, if you compare it to the real world, like, obviously we don't have mountains that have been thrown up over the course of like 10 years or a year or a day or whatever the breaking was like. But we do have mountain ranges of very, very different ages.
Right. New versus Appalachians versus Rockies or...
A really good example is the Appalachians versus the Himalaya. They are extremely similar, just many, many millions apart.
Tell me about how old my Appalachian mountains are. They're so cool and old.
So the Appalachian Mountains were once upon a time formed during the formation of Pangaea. When Pangaea was coming together in the first place, that's when the Appalachian Mountains were getting formed, and they looked like the Himalaya. That's what they looked like.
Yeah, that's my mountain.
They were ginormous and jagged. And you know what was happening? Like, after that time? The evolution of bones.
I know. Isn't that so crazy?
It's so wild.
I tell people that all the time. I'm
wild.
like, our mountains are older than like the spine.
Older than bones.
Like, older than, yeah. And people are always blown away when I tell them that fact. I'm like, yeah, these mountains, they've been around. They have seen so much.
They're older than trees.
Older than older than sharks, older than the North Star, like just older than everything. And the really cool part, so when the Himalayas form, right, as they're forming right now, their roots go down really, really far into the earth, right? Like super, super far down. Like the crust is extremely thick under mountain ranges because it's...
Oh, yeah, she thick.
Yes, we like big crust and we cannot lie. But it's like how icebergs sit in the water. They have to rotate and roll and shift in order to create the equilibrium that they sit at. Well, continents are like that too. Obviously, they can't roll, but they do have to sink down deeper if they get taller, and they have to rise up if they get lighter. It's called isostatic rebound. And so when mountains are being uplifted, the crust is thickening. When they're getting eroded away, that means that the roots are coming up. As the overlying mountain gets removed, the roots have to come up. And so in the Appalachians, the roots that are exposed today are rocks that formed deep down in the Earth's crust. They are deeply metamorphosed, twisted, gnarly, amazing rocks. And those rocks are currently forming under the Appalachians today. They are currently at ridiculous plastic rock folding, nice making insanity pressures right now. They won't be exposed for many, many millions of years. But if you go to the Appalachians, you can see what they look like. You can freaking see them. It's so cool.
I get to see it all the time. Cool. I love living here.
God,
I love it.
Really want to
I couldn't live somewhere without mountains. I couldn't. They're so cool.
Oh, yeah. It's one of the reasons I love living in Oregon, right? Is because we're like, you can drive one way to the tropical forest, one way to the beach, one way to the mountains, and one way to the desert. And like...
subtropical forest, but yes.
Sorry, yes. Thank you. Rainforest.
But I do love that you can get mountains and beach and stuff like that. One cool thing about Virginia, it has the most salamanders of any state. Which
really?
I never figured out.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and I love salamanders. I never figured that out till I was doing the salamander hunting with Bart. But I was like, that's awesome. I'm glad I ended up here because I've like been, obviously finding salamanders my whole life, and they're so cool. And I didn't know we were a hot spot for them. In North Carolina, apparently.
Oh, that's super neat. And with respect to the finding pathways through the mountains, I'm not much of a mountaineer, mountain navigator type person. I assume that the rationale that new mountains are harder to navigate than old mountains is true, but I also feel like Appalachia is known for people getting lost like after 2 seconds. So,
oh yeah,
very easy to get lost. Like
everything looks identical in every direction. It's amazing.
If you can't figure out the direction you're trying to go, and also that's really steep, like just because they're really old, really round, worn down mountains, there's a lot of really steep places that are just not passable. That's why the Mountain Valley Pipeline is so controversial and horrifying, because it's going over terrain that high pressure gas has never gone over before in a pipeline. All those gas pipelines are straight, long, across flat areas. They've never done it up and down and over and across this type of topography before. And then, it's just accidents happen out where it's just going straight. But if there's a erosion and landslide and the pipe breaks, I mean, you're talking huge explosion. Also out in the middle of nowhere on top of one of our mountains, probably. Or I mean, actually, that's the best possible thing, or else it's right next to somebody's house, because it's like going through people's, property and close to people's houses and stuff too. And it's so stupid. Like, it's just gonna break.
But I do feel like the erosion kind of equalizes everything, right? It makes everything look very, like one hill kind of looks just like another hill. And then you combine that with the fact that, like, the valleys going through are kind of twisty based on the way the hills interact. It's very hard to walk straight in one direction at all. You're always going to end up in a valley. Like I can't imagine a place that's more designed to be maze-like, once you get into those rolling hills of like West Virginia.
Definitely. I feel like water navigation is one of the best ways to get through mountain ranges.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. You just have to assume. Yeah.
And I feel like since the breaking was only 3,000 years ago, yeah, a lot of water erosion can happen in 3,000 years, but not as much as could happen in a real mountain range that had been experiencing it before it got moved or whatever. So maybe that has something to do with like the passes being easier, because they used to be a giant river through the mountains, and now it's just a pass.
Yeah, so I maybe Vanon's just overestimating how easy it is for people to not lose their heads and keep navigating in the right direction in older mountains. And it's just one of those, like, most people aren't as good at Vanon as at navigating, and so that's where his, like, nah, it's fine in other mountains, but these mountains you can't do it in. It seems to be like all mountains are difficult to navigate, and they're just all scary and deadly.
Yeah, I think they're all pretty hard. I guess maybe if some mountains came during the break-in and, you know, some crazy male channeler just whoom, up a whole mountain range, then there'd be a lot of broken, crazy, fallen pieces, like wreckage, like after a building is demolished or something like that. That would be a lot harder to figure your way through than a regular old mountain created.
Sure, a mountain that actually follows predictable natural patterns instead of the chaos of magic destruction. Yeah,
exactly. It's just shrapnel of a mountain, basically.
That's super valid. Well, at least there's some kind of dendritic pattern in the old mountains.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there was water erosion still happening. There was, it wasn't just an explosion.
Because, yeah, like, even out here in the Pacific Northwest, like, it's not maybe quite as rolling as the Appalachians, but also we have that same, like, every valley looks the same, every ridge looks the same, it's all super steep. Out here, the rocks are very crumbly rather than very hard welded, but, like, these are very young mountains out here. Like, we're dealing with, like, not even 1,000,000 years old in some cases. Like, these are just sand piles that have been sloughed up recently, and they're still super confusing, and people get lost in them and die all the time. So it's just don't get lost in the mountains, kids.
Oh yeah, I think he's got a good point that mountains are hard to traverse, and maybe that's not part of his dark friendery, but everything else is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this basically ends up forcing them through the Maldive Narrows later on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Vanon says people will die before another pass is found. The loss of that pass guarantees that some enterprising mountain men are going to die figuring out where the alternative pass is. And Matt looks at Oliver and at Tuon and is like, well, gonna have to figure out an alternative then.
Right.
Yeah, all these people he's supposed to be protecting.
And so they just keep riding down the road being like, all right, I just got to think, and I think better when I'm on the move. So we're just going to keep riding. And yeah, it turns into a major military assault, ultimately. But that, the Death Watch guards have to catch up, and there's a whole thing. So
I cannot wait for that part. That's one of my favorite battles. Like,
I know, it's so fun.
There's obviously a lot more battles once Brandon Sanderson takes over, or more like description of battles, because he's good at that. But like this one,
much more of the blow by blow stuff.
But the tactical thinking that goes into this one, and like the one around Tyrion when Rand comes back and and Matt kills Couladin, like the tactics on that one, like those are some of my favorite battles, because they're just so like, whoa, that's like, God, I love the series.
Super Skylake is saying, people are going to die while we find a new pass because I'm going to kill them if they actually find a crossable pass. Vanindred, probably. Okay, yes.
Yes.
And next week's a long one. We've got 3 POVs, 2 on Perrin and Fael. And just page count wise, this chapter was in my digital book 8 pages.
Yeah, this was a short one.
The next chapter is 15.
Oh my.
So expect it to be about twice as long in terms of words.
Okie dokie. Well, I'm glad we don't have a guest scheduled for that one, because that will take forever.
That sounds
And then after that is episode 500, A Plain Wooden Box. We're closing in.
I'm glad I got to be on near 500.
Yeah, I'm glad we were able to get you in here before this book ended, because I was like, you're like, oh, I want to be a guest, and I was like looking at the schedule of like when we're doing stuff and events, and I was just like, here, fit in here. So I'm really glad this timing worked out.
That's why I asked right now, because I was like, oh my God, we're getting close to the end of Nights of Dreams, and I need to be on one more time before Brandon takes over. Like, I love this book, and it's one that I often forget about it being in my top favorites until I'm reading it or listening to you guys talk about it over the last since you started. I'm like, oh yeah, this book is fucking great. And I do think that I felt when I was originally reading it the slog a little bit, because I remember coming to this book and it being so fast paced, and I was just like, woohoo, like this is like I guess I did kind of feel it now that I'm thinking back to that, and like how much this one was so much fun.
Yeah. It's like being set free after kind of like dragging weights behind you for 3 books. You're like, okay, let's cut those lines and go.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't had fun the last couple books with you guys too, but man, this one's been awesome.
Yeah, it really is. It really, and one of the things that it was for me is, you know, after 3 books where I really felt like Jordan was, I'm not going to say lost his way, but was wandering a little bit off in the beside the path. It was nice to be like, okay, Jordan can come back and like there is a plan. He is going to finish this. He is wrapping up storylines. He is closing things down. He is, setting up for the last battle. We're not just going to fuck around for another 5 books before the last battle, right? Like, so for me, this book is a very good book on its own, but in terms of what it communicated to me as a reader of the Wheel of Time series is that there is a good ending to this series that can happen. We're not just going to spiral off into politics that never get resolved. And so this book means a lot to me on, I feel like, both of those levels, right? And then also as a farewell book, right, from Jordan, which obviously he didn't intend, but like as his final book being a really fun, good, well-written book means a lot to me.
Me too.
And on that note, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Where it's just like, everybody married their high school sweetheart, or everybody married who they were fighting in this war to save the fabric of time, which I guess, I get it. That probably makes you want to get married.
Yeah, it's the one you look back and you're like, oh, Harry Potter was the trust fund jock who married his high school sweetheart and grew up to become a cop.
Right?
Yes. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Well, I mean, given the way that author has chosen to be an absolute fuckface with her public clout, hashtag Trans Lives Matter, that kind of all tracks.
Yes.
It was one of the early signs. That one in the description of the goblins.
I loved Harry Potter, but I haven't read the books in a long time. I spend all of my time that I would have spent on Harry Potter in the fan fiction world of Marauders, and mostly just Remus and Sirius are in love. And J.K. Rowling wrote them that way and didn't even fucking realize it. But the fandom all saw it as soon as we read book 3, but it was confirmed in book 5.
Yep.
They gave Harry a joint birthday present, and then she's just like, oh no, he's marrying Tonks, Sirius's cousin. Fuck you. You read a gay relationship, you didn't realize it. And I spent all my time in that part of the Harry Potter fandom because I still love that world, but I refuse to actually like listen to the books or anything anymore. So
I love that.
I remember reading them, but having already been a huge fan of Wheel of Time, I was like, these are pretty good children's books.
That's I was
like, these are good, but
17 when the last Harry Potter book came out, so the same age as the characters. So it's like, that's what got me into reading, and I think that's really valuable, and I think it did a lot for people my age, especially. I was like, got read to them the first 2, and then because I and learned how to read, because I was like, I can't wait to know what happens next. I need to read. And so if it hadn't been for me reading a whole Harry Potter book in a 12-hour drive to Michigan, I don't know if I would have been like, sure, I can take on a 14-book series. That sounds great. Give me the first book for Christmas. So I thank it for that too, for my ability to just not at all shy away from big books, because when I was 12, I was like, sure, I'll read or Order of the Phoenix, the longest Harry Potter book.
No, and it did get a lot of people in the longer fantasy books, but I'm actually the same age as Harry Potter. We were both born in 1981, the fictional character, right? But the books were written
in the
about
90s.
10 years after they were written to take place in the 90s, but they're actually written later than that, right?
Exactly. The first one came out in 97, 90.
Right, but then because it took so long, it took more than 7 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I was much older than Harry Potter was when the books came out, even though we were born in the same year.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas, I was very much the right age to be the first few books. My dad was reading them to me as I was roughly the age of the protagonists. Mm-hmm. And so, my dad had such a great reading voice. And so all of that is just wrapped up in great memories of my dad reading to me, not because I couldn't read, but because that was part of our family ritual. And
same.
Now those books keep my computer from sucking in too much carpet and suffocating, and so I can say that the J.K. Rowling is supporting trans people.
Oh, they're doing good then. Well, I've been, writing some fun Wolfstar fan fiction and reading and promoting a lot of really awesome queer artists in that land of fan fiction. So I've been enjoying being back in that world in a very fun corner of it.
That's
so
awesome.
I left it for just such a long time because I loved it so much, and I was I can't, it sucks. Then I was that doesn't mean I can't go back and enjoy some fucking Wolfstar, because I used to read fan fiction in 1999. That was, if I hadn't been reading Harry Potter fan fiction the entire time I've been reading the books, I don't think I would have liked that world as much. Honestly,
I've
been
never
thinking
gotten
about
into
it a lot
fanfic,
lately.
but I love that.
And so many writers can do so much better with with the world she hinted at. They can actually flesh out the magic system. They can give it rules. They can do better character development. Thank you for making that world for us. Go die in a house. But apparently she's been living alone, not even seeing her kids, locked up in a house for the last 10 years. So she's been totally boomer-fied. That has I was that makes so much sense. Look what happened to so many boomers during the pandemic. And if she's been doing that for 10 years, because I'm sure it was exhausting to be that famous, but no wonder that's not a healthy environment for anybody. If that's true.
Just take your money and run away from the internet forever. Just run.
George R. R. Martin.
Yeah, just leave the internet behind. You have your money. Just abandon ship. Get out.
Yeah.
Don't spend your energy being the actual worst.
Don't approve a whole
my
Harry
God.
Potter series that's going to come out on HBO.
Just be chill. Just go be quiet and chill. Don't put your energy into being the worst.
So done with boomers.
Anyway, super unrelated to Wheel of Time.
Yeah, wow. Sorry. Big tangent.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?